Hello, konbanwa, moshi moshi, which is so important for tonight's talk. Do you know about this one, Derek? Moshi moshi. Moshi moshi wa, it's something a fox can't say. This is a myth, or maybe not, maybe it's true. If you say moshi moshi when you answer the phone and someone doesn't say it back to you, then it's probably a fox on the other side, and you should probably hang up. Yeah, go on. I want to hear more about this game. Yes, except for I'm hearing that you have no audio whatsoever.
Is because I forgot to unmute myself and you missed all of my sweet words, chat. I'm so sorry, but you can hear me now.
Yes, Derek just made a really great suggestion for having some kind of video game where we just say mush mushy till the end of time to one another, just to make sure there's no foxes. So that's what you missed, really.
Yeah, it wasn't anything spectacular. I was giving out things like my social security and secret bank codes, as well as the cure to all things. But you didn't miss anything important.
That's not true. It's all important.
Yeah.
It's all important. But what were you were just asking me a question and the whole crowd a question here.
I
So
did. I did. I said for our chat, they have a brief understanding that there might be a fox on the other line, but can we go into detail what this fox might be about? What are these foxes' intentions? I know we're going to expand on that tune, but expanding on that here in a moment. But if you can give them a brief.
a brief. Oof. Well, we have a lot going on today. And I guess to start us out, I will definitely do what I've come to know as a deep dish later with you all
Mm.
after we talk to one of our first guests, which is Matthew Meyer. And we will talk about him a little bit more. But I guess just to think about that, the whole night's all about the kitsune, which is the fox, right? I think everyone kind of knows this word by now, but we'll ask like a bunch of questions about the kitsune and why it's important and a whole bunch of different perspectives. So what's cool is you'll have my very humble perspective alongside Matthew Meyer's perspective, alongside Onigiri Shuttle Kororin's perspective as they make the food that goes to the foxes. And we'll have the Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue giving their perspective on some kitsune that you can support here in Chicago and in the
Hmm.
Midwest.
Yes, yes. All super exciting stuff. To kind of end the night, there will be some other little fun tidbits about where you can find this elusive yokai in the world and in media and right around you. And so more on that soon. But we'll be doing a little bit of live playthrough as well as some chat about a couple games as well.
Oh, someone in chat is reminding us of that song that we all thought we might forget by now. Do you remember it, Derek? Because I'm not saying it out loud.
I won't say it.
I'm not gonna say it. Sorry,
I'm not gonna give
Paul.
energy
It's
to
not
that.
happening.
Paul.
Mm. That is to say, Paul reminds me too. This whole episode tonight, I want to give a big shout out to the sheep that lived the most best life. That I'm just thinking we should like have the show about Casanova, who is an individual from the Mugaidu Iaido group, lost recently. So huge shout out to Casanova, who was a true gentleman and a scholar. And we'll just keep talking about him till the end of time through all these foxes.
Hmm.
And also, we have some other housekeeping, such as I know we mentioned before, at least in the last episode, that we have some new supporters that we're super jazzed about. And one of them, if Derek can help kind of illustrate them a touch more, perfect, is the Japan Foundation Center for Global Partnerships. And we are just so jazzed for all of their support. They've really given a lot to this new look of Tokyo House Party and also some of the events that, if we can mix it up to the next image, Derek, that they are supporting. Do we have it?
It's up there.
Okay, yes. So the next time you'll see us actually won't be for a Tokyo House Party. It'll be for a mega special event that's on December 5th. And it'll be from 1 to 5, or excuse me, 1 to 4. Please don't make us go on that long. 1 to 4. And the premise is Ikigai indoors. And if anyone's ever heard of this term Ikigai, it's kind of like an elusive fun term that gets thrown around, but it actually means iki, to live, and gai, reasons. So it's a compilation of reasons for being, getting up in the morning, just finding the stuff that's good. And we'll be sharing it with our entire community here in Chicago, the artistic community that represents the Japanese arts and cultural practices. So join us that day. We'll be hosting everyone coming together, sharing their own ikigai and how you can maybe jump into it too.
So many things.
It'll be cool. It'll be really cool. And so we've hit Casanova, we've hit Ikigai indoors. So I guess we can kind of move on to our night.
Right, right. And that first segment of our night, we're jumping right into our chat with Matthew Meyer. Is that right?
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I would preface the segment, but I think we end up doing that in our past recording anyway. And so,
However, I do have an introduction for him.
okay.
That because I don't think we really introduced him. We got his own introduction of himself.
Oh,
But
sure.
we'll give you a little more insight into Matthew Meyer. So Matt lives in Japan right now, as you'll see right away.
Mm-hmm.
But so we had to pre-record with him and doing our Inception thing that we do so often. So bear with us. But so Matthew Meyer is an illustrator and folklorist based in Japan, as we now know. He received a BFA in illustration from Ringling College of Art and Design in 2005. Ghost stories and folklore have been one of his greatest passions for his whole life. Since 2008, his work has been focused on Japanese folklore, particularly yokai, as Derek mentioned. And he is known as the yokai guy, quote unquote, for his work on yokai.com, the online database of Japanese ghosts and monsters. And he is an amazing artist. I will preface with that.
And that's yokai.com, which I'm giving in chat. And if you're looking for Matthew Meyer online, that's at Matthew Meyer Art. Or if you search the yokai guy, it should lead you to the same individual. But that's usually, I believe that's their tag name on both Instagram and Twitter, where you can check out all the different. I mean, I say this in the past in a recording that we're about to show you in the future. But it is an overwhelming compendium of yokai that they have done research and illustration for every single one of them. You're both looking at their work in both art and research on this site. So a one-man band, and a big one at that. To jump right into it, then, let's show you our chat with Matthew Meyer. We are going to be muted on the back end so that we don't interfere with the video, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, yeah. Shall we hop right in? We're good on time and everything. Okay, cool. Well, yeah. Well, so since we're pre-recording this, we'll kind of we always jokingly address to ourselves in the future, since the pre-recordings are always before an actual episode. And so probably just kind of take the lead of thanking ourselves for this segment. So I'll say to myself, thank you, Derek. Yes, I am here with. I see how I just led right into that. I'm here with Sarah and Matt. We're meeting up with Matt to talk about some yokai. One particular yokai, the Kitsune, and so we have all kinds of questions for you. But first and foremost, yes, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being here in the wibbly wobbly time space of time zones and recording things in the past.
Yeah, if you can't tell, Matt is truly in Japan. Look at that stunning background he has that's not fabricated. That's actually where he is. So we've disturbed him across space and time.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Just to kind of kick things off casually, do you mind telling our viewers at home, what is it that you do? What is your relationship to yokai and just the general spiel about your work?
So I guess I consider myself an illustrator primarily, but I think, with the work I do, folklorist is also sort of appropriate. Basically, if you know yokai.com is probably where most people would have seen my work, or they would see me as the yokai guy on social media. But I take old Japanese traditional monsters, ghosts, things like that, and I collect legends and folklore, and I sort of just distill it, translate it, and digest it into something that's just easy to read for an English speaker, and then I draw an illustration for it and post it online. So I've been doing that for like a decade now. I've got 3 books out, and I'm working on a 4th book now that are all illustrated encyclopedias of yokai.
I remember your Kickstarters even. I feel like I recall those days.
It's super great. And I can say from personal experience that yokai.com is an incredibly valuable resource for getting quick information on yokai, and like not only quick, but just expansive information. That catalog is huge. Hitting the random yokai button is always a really cool surprise in learning about, something different. But I'll have you know, and I think I mentioned to you before, but I've definitely sourced your site and visited your site multiple times while working on game projects in my own work.
I'm glad it's been useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like what's really wonderful about Matt's work is that it's never ending. It's ongoing. You can go to Matt's Instagram right now today and find a new yokai today for certain. And yesterday was a new one. And it's, you're just a machine over there churning them out. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's full-time work now. So that allows me to focus more on that, and also to look at some more complex and complicated stories rather than just sort of the quick ones out like I did in October. But
I love it.
Fun. People always ask me if I'm going to run out of yokai, but the end is nowhere in sight. So
that's wonderful.
Great. Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you, and we will definitely kind of get more into your books and sort of like your current and upcoming projects. But to get us rolling, you have joined us on a super special day here at Tokyo House Party, where we're just talking Kitsune all day. And we are hoping that we can pick your brain a little bit about your knowledge of Kitsune and what insights you might have to share. We understand that, here in the United States and other places that, Japanese culture isn't like your first language, supposedly. That, sometimes stories get conflated and there's a lot of misunderstandings, and we see it in pop culture, but what's really going on? I wonder if you could indulge us.
Well, yeah, I mean, even in Japanese folklore, the whole story about Kitsune is very, very confused and convoluted. I've got a number of books on Kitsune. I'm actually researching Kitsune right now for my next book, which is going to be somewhat Kitsune themed. The main theme is going to be about Kitsune, but there will be other yokai in it as well. But, even trying to get a straight answer from the folklore is impossible because everything is contradictory.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that coming off of our last episode and talking about yokai, I think that goes a bit in the nature of what in trying to identify what a yokai is and categorizing yokai as a whole is a bit different every time you hear it. And I think that speaks to the entirety of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that, part of the charm of yokai is that you can't understand them. As much as you try, you never will. And so you just have to be comfortable in that zone where contradictions exist. And you just have to be able to sort of hold those and appreciate them and understand that you can't ever understand a yokai. And if you could, it wouldn't be a yokai. So that's part of the enjoyment of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's funny because just like, I guess, building on that convoluted nature of what we're talking about and the contradictory as well. Before we joined you today, Derek and I were talking about, some of the interesting intersections and departures of the Kitsune that, sometimes get muddled and confused, such as, a Kitsune that might be found at a Shinto shrine versus a Kitsune that might be the one we're more familiar with that's a little maybe more malicious. And if you can kind of explain to us like where all of these multifaceted stories of the Kitsune come from and how they became so intertwined.
Well, part of it is that there's a lot of lore coming from different sources. So the idea of a kitsune as a seductress and somebody, generally a woman, who seduces men and ruins their lives, that's an ancient story that goes back to ancient China. So a lot of that, the evil kitsune folklore comes straight out of China and was brought over to Japan. But there's also Kitsune folklore that comes from other sources, like Buddhist sources. In that case, a lot of times it comes down to differences in translation. So in India, they have jackals, but in China, they don't have jackals. So when Buddhism was brought from India to China, they had this word, yakan, well, that's the Japanese pronunciation of it. But anyway, this word that the Chinese didn't know, and it was the word for jackal. And so they chose, they looked at what this animal does. It's about the size of a dog. It's this color. It does this and this. And the Chinese thought, okay, well, that's pretty close to a fox. So we're going to call it a fox. And so you've got the first tradition where Kitsune are coming from ancient Chinese folk religion and folklore. And you've got the second tradition where they're coming from Indian and Buddhist folklore. And in China, they're being mixed around and sort of swapped and confused. And that also gets imported to Japan. And, you've all of these cultures mixing together with the local Japanese folklore makes for this melting pot of different origins and different sources. And so you've got this very, very complicated and complex system of folklore about the Kitsune. As far as, the image of good Shinto Kitsune, they're not all good. Even the nice ones that you see in shrines are sometimes bad Kitsune. I think it's important to remember that yokai are not good or evil, or they're not black or white. They're all just like people. So one Kitsune in particular might be generally good and then does something horrible, or one of them might be generally horrible and does something good, just like humans.
So when you say horrible, what kind of horrible? What's horrible in this landscape?
Well, the most horrible Kitsune by folkloric standards is probably Tamamo no Mai. You may know her story. She's on yokai.com, and she's in my book, The Hour of Meeting Evil Spirits. But essentially, she was this woman who became a courtier in the imperial palace. So she was like one of the many imperial brides, isn't really the right word, but she was a noble woman in the imperial court. And she gradually began making the emperor sick and sicker and sicker, but he loved her because she was so charming. She probably used her magic to sort of enchant him. And she would, the closer she got to him, the sicker he got, until eventually they figured out that she was actually a Kitsune who was trying to kill the emperor and destabilize the country. So, at the very far end of the evil spectrum, you've got Kitsune who are kind of like terrorist assassins whose entire modus operandi is to just wreak havoc on humanity by destroying political figures.
I don't hate that. Okay. All right. That's an interesting perspective. I like that. Okay. I know that there's lots of different types of Kitsune and names and things that look like Kitsune that maybe aren't. Is there some rendition or I guess through line of a story about a Kitsune that you find most compelling?
Oh boy, there's so many. I particularly like the story of Tamamo no Mai, who I just mentioned, particularly because the folklorists who sort of wrote her story in Japan connected her to these ancient stories in India and China that are very similar. China has a long story of fox demons who take the form of beautiful women and then attack the emperor and cause a downfall of the dynasty. So, three of China's great ancient dynasties were said to have brought down by a woman who ruined the emperor. And in legends, these are often said to be fox women. And so whoever creatively thought up of the story of Tamamo no Mai connected her with some of these women in ancient China, saying that first she was in China and she ruined the emperor. And then she fled to India and she ruined this king and emperor and caused the downfall of this ancient kingdom. And after that, she went back to China and she got in league with the emperor again, and she caused the downfall of another great dynasty. And then she hopped on a boat and sailed across to Japan and tried to overthrow the emperor there, but was finally stopped. So it's almost like what you would call ancient fan fiction. They took these old legends and wove them together into this story and then slapped their new character into it. And it's just this fantastic cooperative effort over, centuries and centuries of storytelling. You
That's
see that a lot today on the internet with people just building off each other's stories, but you don't really think of it happening in ancient times, but it definitely did.
Mhm.
well, when you think of a kitsune, and just like what are some of those baseline characteristics that you'd find in the average kitsune? Like if someone were to describe one, like what are some of the tenets of being a kitsune?
Well, number one is shapeshifting. Kitsune are very, very skilled at shapeshifting, like a lot of animals are. But yeah, so shapeshifting, and not just into people, but they can also turn into objects or tools. After shapeshifting comes possession. So kitsune are able to actually like enter the body of, usually it's women again, but not restricted to women. They can enter people, they can enter tools, they can enter animals, they can cause all sorts of chaos by doing that. So, if a kitsune possesses your hoe, if you're a farmer, and you go out and try to till the fields, it's dull and it won't cut anything, or it breaks, or you get a splinter, or just something bad happens to you. Or if it enters your daughter, she's going to start acting like she's got a mental illness, or start acting crazy in some way or another. They sort of use that as a catch-all term for mental illness back before mental illness was understood. So if somebody was acting strangely, they were possessed by a fox.
It almost seems as though, in maybe certainly other yokai being included in it, but that kitsune ended up being the catch-all for, or I guess received the brunt force of a lot of negative situations, like as you mentioned, a farmer's tool breaking, and then they just shake their fists to the air like, damn you, kitsune, or something like that. But
there's definitely other animals will do this too, but I think kitsune get a lot of the rap just because they're an animal that is close to humans. They live in the mountains. I've seen kitsune climbing down the mountain near my house at nighttime if I go out to throw the trash out real late.
Mm-hmm.
So we see them even in cities sometimes, but in the countryside, there's a lot of them. They eat your livestock, they'll eat your chickens, but at the same time, they'll also eat the mice that ruin your grain. So they're good, they're bad, and they live near humans, but they're also very shy and they try to stay away from humans. So they really are sort of on the periphery of society. Everyone maybe has seen one, but nobody's really interacted with one.
Mm-hmm.
They look like dogs, but they act differently. So there's a lot of features about just the animal of the fox that are really similar to a lot of yokai, that they live on the edge of society. You don't really get to interact with them, but you kind of see them every once in a while. And I think, just the fact that humans and foxes have been near each other for, thousands and thousands of years lends the kitsune to becoming a really important yokai in folklore.
Well, I guess that's a good question. And I wonder if one of our viewers, if we were live right now, would ask this. But what's the difference between a fox I see walking along the railroad tracks and a kitsune?
Nothing. I mean, when I use the term kitsune, I try to differentiate between fox and kitsune in that when I say fox, I mean the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say kitsune, I mean the folkloric magical beast. But in terms of, in Japanese, it's just kitsune. So there's, you could specifically say like bake kitsune if you wanted to talk about a transforming kitsune. But in general, it's not like some foxes are magic and some are not. It's just foxes do this. So there's not really a difference between foxes and kitsune. I just try to use the word fox when I'm speaking of the mundane animal.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So any any mundane fox can be a kitsune is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All foxes are kitsune in a way.
I see. So I wonder if you could tell us more, like, so usually when we see these in art and in shrines and such, they're depending, especially the ones, I guess we'll think of the Inari foxes. So those are white. They're always carrying a couple different objects with them. I wonder if you could break down some of that iconography for us.
Sure. Well, so you see a lot of white foxes in Shinto shrines because the white fox is specifically the fox that serves Inari. Mm-hmm. There's a number of, I guess you could call them like families of foxes in folklore. So you've got red foxes, which are just your ordinary fox. Like when they're born, they're red. And then later on in their life, when they choose sort of a discipline, they become a black fox, a white fox, a silver fox, or a gold fox.
So this is like choosing your house in Harry Potter, kind of?
It is like choosing your house in Harry Potter.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So it's important to remember in Japanese folklore, animals change into different animals. And this is, I mean, if you look at Pokemon, the way Pokemon evolve, it's exactly like that. So
Nice.
a regular red fox will like evolve into a white fox and become a servant of Inari. Or it will evolve into a black fox and it will start following the North Star religion. Or it will become a silver or gold fox, in which case it becomes a servant of Dakini. It's a Buddhist deity. So depending on the tradition we're talking about, foxes tend to have different colors.
And
But in Japan, the white fox is the most popular one just because Inari is a Japanese god and is all over the country.
Which one is House Slytherin? Could you pin it down?
That's a good question. I mean, there's I would say Yako, which is the unaffiliated fox. They probably, well, they don't necessarily stay to be red foxes. They can be any color themselves, but there are foxes who decide to serve no one. And
They're like the Ronin.
They're like
that sounds cool.
So
The
an
Ronin
example would be,
fox.
Tamamono Mai was definitely one of these. She was not a good white fox. She was just a wild fox who decided to do her own thing and go after humans. So, freelancer foxes.
I like it. Fox for hire. You mentioned the color change, and I immediately thought of, especially in the context of Pokemon, which use a lot of suggestions of yokai, but one of the original Pokemon, Vulpix, evolves in the Ninetales, and it is that color distinction. It starts as a little red fox, this cute little fox, and then evolves into this Ninetail fox instead, and very much like a white cream color at that. So it's very cool that we have representations of Kitsune and other folklore creatures in popular media. That actually leads me to ask, are there any other representations of Kitsune within media, comics, or what have you that maybe viewers do or don't know about?
Oh boy, that's hard for me to answer because I don't follow comics and media so much these days because I'm so busy just researching the folklore.
Sure.
I mean, you'll see Kitsune all over anime. They're just everywhere in anime.
It's almost guaranteed, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they're ubiquitous. I mean, you see them in video games. You see them, like you said, even in Pokemon. They've got basically just a straight up Kitsune right there. I think it's very, very natural for if you're like a Japanese creator or designer, just if you put a Kitsune in there, it's not strange. It's just a natural thing. It's like putting an elf in your fantasy world, wherever, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or whatever world you've created.
Yeah.
Just saying this is an elf. Everyone already knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Even though you're not necessarily copying the Tolkien elf or the folkloric, British elf. It's a term that is really familiar. So if you throw a fox into your creation, you don't need to necessarily define what it is. It's just something that is so culturally ingrained that it's an easy object to put in there.
That makes sense. Yeah. Can you also tell us about tails?
So every 100 years of their lifespan, their tail splits and they get a new one. So it's a general indicator of their age as well as their power level. And so, you go from one tail up to 9 tails at about 1,000 years of age. And so the most powerful Kitsune you see out there have 9 tails.
Why can't there be 10 and why 9? What's so special about the number 9?
I don't know what's special about the number 9. It's not like it's really a symbolic number. There are stories of 8-tailed foxes doing pretty cool stuff.
You can skirt by at 8.
Yeah, exactly. By the time you've got 9 tails, your power is essentially rivaling the gods. So I just think that's, sort of the asymptotal limit. You just can't reach 10. It's sort of like a logarithmic number.
No, there's no turn it up to 11. It stops at
No.
9. Sorry for my Spinal Tap references.
9.5.
Although,
It's just
depending on which god you serve, or which sort of, again, which Harry Potter house your fox is in, there are different ranks. So especially with the foxes who serve Inari,
Mhm.
not only do they gain tails as they age, but they also rank. They have like ranks like in the army or in the military service. Like they have this rank, and then they go up to this rank, and they go up to this rank. So with those kitsune, eventually they shed their physical bodies and they just become spiritual creatures. And then eventually they become even more powerful than that, and they become basically these ghostly gods. And then they start to lose tails. And finally, the most ancient and most powerful form of kitsune has 0 tails.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you what's a fox without a tail? That sounds rough, but yeah, okay. And I wonder, and I'm thinking that maybe we should have we should have more conversation about some of these things. But could you tell us? I know in a lot of artwork we often see these foxes, and even in anime, like thinking about Naruto and things like this, that there's always fire kind of affiliated with the foxes. So what's that all about?
So one of the signature things, I probably could have mentioned it earlier, along with shape-shifting and possession, but maybe a third one of those signature things is going to be fireballs. Foxes are all well known for creating little balls of fire, and it's just like the myth of the will-o'-the-wisp.
Okay.
The mysterious fire that you see out in the fields in the distance, and sometimes it will lead people astray. Mischievous kitsune will light their fox fire, and they will walk on the roads late at night, and a traveler will see that and they'll think it's someone carrying a torch up ahead, so they'll follow them thinking they're following the road, but then the kitsune will lead them off into the wilderness and get them completely lost, and then begin performing much worse pranks on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tool, and it's something that kitsune use all the time, both to hurt people, but also for their own fun.
One of my favorite anime characters was Shippo from Inuyasha, who is a kitsune. They make fun of him all the time. He's always receiving the butt end of everybody's jokes, but his abilities are limited, because he's so small. However, one of his abilities is Foxfire. But when he uses it, much like the rest of it, because he's so young, it usually has little to no effect on his opponents, and so this tiny little fireball most of the time just creates a small rash or skin irritation on his foes rather than truly affecting anybody. But yeah, definitely a part.
So cute. Yeah. I wonder if you could also maybe tell us if you have some experience with studying kitsune in Japan that you might like to share.
I mean, I've been reading books on folklore. That's about the limit of my experiences with it. I've seen live foxes around here, but I haven't done anything beyond just sort of reading and that sort of research.
Yeah.
Right on.
I'm being nosy, wondering why you're in Japan right now. This is me being nosy. Sorry, Matt.
No, I mean, Japan, just because it's easier to research folklore in Japan.
Yeah.
I need to order a lot of books, and I need to go to libraries to get a lot of books. And so if I were in the US, I couldn't visit libraries, and ordering books from Amazon Japan would be expensive to have them constantly shipped over. So over here, if I'm doing some research and suddenly it references this book and I need to get that book, I can pretty much order it, and the next day it will show up.
So nice.
To the library. So
I'm envious. Yeah.
For research purposes, it's real nice to be here, but also I just like it here. It's a great country to live in.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. And speaking of books, I know you briefly touched on the books that you have put out and a book that you're currently working on. I would love to give some times for you to be able to expand on those details and tell us a bit about what's in the pipeline for you.
Yeah. So I'm working on a 4th book right now. It's going to be called The Fox's Wedding. So again, it's based with a heavy section of foxes, but it's not 100% foxes. But it's basically going to follow the same format as my other 3 books. So it's just an illustrated encyclopedia. There's going to be over 100 yokai in it, over 100 illustrations. In this book right now, I've got about a quarter of it is dedicated to Kitsune folklore.
That's
and the
cool.
other 3/4 are just general folklore. But in the book, I'm going to talk about the houses, the families of Kitsune. I'm going to talk about the different ranks of Kitsune and how Kitsune society allows them to, travel to different shrines and rank up by performing deeds and by serving Inari. It's going to have a number of famous Kitsune myths. So Tamamomai isn't in there because she's in my second book, The Hour of Meeting Evil Spirits, but there's going to be a lot of local Kitsune stories that I think probably have never been translated into English before, so it should be exciting for people.
That's wonderful.
Exciting. I look forward to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter for that again, and right now the plan is to launch it in December. So it's coming up. I'm working on it right now, pretty soon.
That's great.
Well, that's amazing. I wish we had it now so we could share it with everyone, but maybe you can let us know, how will they find it when it does go live in December?
So you can follow me on social media, or even yokai.com. If you visit yokai.com, there'll be a big link for the Kickstarter there when it's up. So look for that in December.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yes. And please let us know. We'll be sure to follow up with this wonderful episode to let the audience know about the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, I'll be one of the first people buying your book. And I know we kind of have to wrap things, but I have one burning question left for you, and I hope you'll indulge me in it.
All right.
Why do you personally think that these kitsune often afflict women?
There's the age-old question. I mean, it comes down to sexism, I'm sure. In the old days, especially, I mean, even today, I shouldn't just say in the old days, but women are viewed as the weaker sex or the more fragile sex. And just like in English, how we have the word hysteria, which, originally, it's related to the uterus, right? So the idea that women are especially affected by this sort of thing, well, it was like that in Asia as well, and in Japan, and even back in ancient China, the idea that women were more susceptible to mental illness because they're weaker, because that allows foxes to enter them more easily. How far back that goes is hard to say. Does it go back to caveman times, or does it go back to just the beginning of civilization? But I mean, not just kitsune, but all yokai tend to affect women more than men. And I think that just boils down to, cultural sexism like we see across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I can feel we will talk more about this on the show tonight, because, it's my favorite thing to talk about. So I love it. Thank you so much for your candor.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Yeah. As an anecdote to our conversation about kitsune and their prowess for affecting politics, wow, I wish one would show up right now and just do their work.
Oh, that's really funny. I'm so glad this came to me just now, but there was someone who attended the last party who sent me a message on social media noting that they're excited about this episode, and that they saw a few foxes, I think, on election day in 2016.
Oh.
And so they wondered if that was a sign. Uh-oh. And so it's come back full circle to this conversation. Username with dogs, something like this. Yes. So we will find out, I think, by the time our show airs, just how this affected
this week. Which all of the stories that would have played if Kitsune belief was still alive today. You have people saying that Kitsune were shape-shifting into people and walking into voting booths.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of insanity they could come up with.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It'd be all over Twitter already. So.
You gotta stop the foxes now.
Yes. Matt, thank you so much for, again, carving some time out of your day to chat with us and chat with us about such a wonderful topic, and
Pleasure.
share with us, all the work that you've been doing. One more time, can you let our viewers know at home where they can find you online and what the name of your upcoming book will be?
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Meyer, aka the Yokai Guy. You can find me on social media, usually as Matthew Meyer Art, or just search for the Yokai Guy. You can also find me on yokai.com, and you'll find my books there. And you'll be able to see my newest book there in December when the Kickstarter launches. It's called The Fox's Wedding, and there'll be more information pretty soon up on yokai.com and social media.
Amazing.
Yes. And I also am very much reminded of Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, that like vignette of the, yeah, I love it.
Yes, it's such a beautiful scene. I really like that. And,
Yeah.
and that is, that's sort of where the name of the book comes from, The Fox's Wedding. It's a common folktale around here about how when it rains, when the sun is shining, it means that foxes are getting married nearby.
Oh, cool! I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to go out. Let's just leave it. Let's leave it at that. Matt, thank you again. It was wonderful talking to you, and we hope to have you again on the show sometime in the near future.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Matt.
See you around. That's the end of our conversation. We're going to hand it back to Sarah and Derek in the future, wavy hands, and see you around. Alrighty. We are back. Well, we hope you enjoyed the past us talking to Matt. I know we always talk about this wibbly wobbly time space scenario of pre-recordings, but yes, Matt is 14, 15 hours in the future. So yeah, we had to pre-record in order to coordinate that. But I wish you were a dog. I'm glad you chimed in because we were referring to you in our conversation with Matt there. So thank you for being here, and thank you for for reminding us of your experience and bumping into your own kitsune.
Yeah, it was so classic because he mentioned that, and I was like, oh, I think you would message me. Maybe I'm looking at you over here because I have a second computer that I'm looking at right now with the text on it because I never can chime in with everyone's comments because I can't see them on mine. But that is to say, thank you. He had that conversation right after you had chimed in with that. So it was a really cool connection to be made. And now we do know the results of the election. So I don't know if Fox were involved in this one, but we are all on this side. So that is to say, we realized that our conversation with Matt ended up being a little shorter than we normally do for our art hour. And it just so happens this is kind of something I'm interested in. So we thought what would be cool for the whole theme of today is that we could have a bunch of different perspectives on a similar topic that could give us some ideas about how multiple perspectives are so important in understanding the core of things and also how it's so slippery. And so I think that Matt just gave us like a really great primer for jumping off. And I asked him some very specific questions, but the thing I don't want to do is lecture to everybody because no one wants that, least of all me. So again, as we say this in every show, I am dying for you guys to ask questions. I am dying to chat with you about things. And for me, um, I've done a ton of research on these guys, so I can probably field pretty much any question you bounce my way. So I have an idea about some things that I'm curious about, and I'll ask questions of you all. But it's a two-way street, and we can pivot on a dime. It's no problem.
Yeah.
So
I
if you
think
have
this
questions
was
about Matt,
I think this was something that we touched on outside of a show. So I'm personally really excited to get to kind of be a viewer in this moment and not only chat with but ask questions that might come up. And then, yes, viewers at home, I will do my best to catch any questions that you have in channel and loft them out here in the conversation. But Sarah, what are we going to be expanding upon regarding Kitsune?
yeah. So in my own personal research and things that compel me to study Japan, I asked that of Matt in the conversation, unsure of how he might answer it, but he also had some thoughts. I am really interested in the kind of presence and non-presence of women throughout Japanese history. And not in a nutshell either. I mean, this is kind of, like I'd said before, in other scenarios that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes. And this story of women in Japan rhymes with so many stories in this world. And so we'll definitely be being kind of exploring this intersection between foxes and feminism, but also just kind of keeping in mind too, which I think is so interesting and cool that we have the opportunity to do it here, is that this word folklore, which I actually sometimes take some issue with. I'm not sure if I like it sometimes,
Sure.
but folklore, and which I think is no different from a term like religion or history or even current events, I guess. They are all told by a person and for someone else to hear it. So it's a story being told by someone with a specific, life experience to others who then receive it with their own set of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has all these unique perspectives, and everything that we hear is all so unique, I suppose, and how important it is to hear a bunch before we can really make any choice for ourselves. I think that's important anyway.
Right.
With that said, that's why I kind of wanted to preface here is even every bit of context that I would share today is from my own personal biases and preferences and experiences, because I'm very interested in this topic. So a lot of my research was really trying to dig into it. And just to kind of let you all know where my perspective comes from, I, of course, as many people know, my background is in both Japanese studies and art history and museum studies. But less people know that I did master's work also in traditional Chinese medicine. And the reason I did that work was not because I had planned for a life of poking people with needles, though honestly, that still sounds kind of fun to me.
At any time.
It was because I was really interested in the kinds of things that Matt was touching on. How do these stories come into Japan? How were women understood? How was life understood? And the questions I was thinking about when trying to understand why the kitsune so often afflicts women, along with other yokai from Japan, like the Yuki Onna and other kind of demonization of women's in this very literal form.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they do it? And why were women selected for this? So my big kind of like overarching questions that I'm asking with everyone today, and please ask me questions too, is so why all the tales? What is it about immortality? Right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about some creature that's really digging around to live forever. Why does someone want to live forever? And how do they even know how they can live forever? Where do these ideas come from?
Right.
And then why are they sometimes so dang malicious and cunning? And why are they so often women, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, girls want to have fun. Yes, but we want a fun that's like safe for everybody, I think. I
Yes.
mean, speaking as a girl, that's my perspective. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes
okay, so
fun is
Paul
toppling the
says,
government from within.
Okay, I won't argue with that brand of fun.
Yeah.
There's a couple flavors of fun out there, and you know, you know. In any event, let's jump backwards in time so far to think about what Matt had kind of mentioned, that a lot of these stories come from China. And Derek, I forget, Derek has been so kind to work with me and kind of like throwing some images into the mix so that you can not just watch me speak the whole time. Um, and also I'm watching, this is whenever I look off to the side, is because I'm watching for someone to say something. So say something.
We're here for you.
I'm being forceful today. But yeah, so he kind of mentioned that there's a lot of different ways that it came into Japan, these ideas of foxes and kitsune. And it's true. They came from, hello, Zach. They came from China mostly. So we have these ideas about immortality that really stem from really old traditions in China based around Taoism, which is quite old. We're talking about before Common Era old. And Derek, is there a picture of the fox that I mentioned from China?
Whoa, what number is it?
Oh, good question. What's the first one? I'll always put one up and we'll go from there.
Let's put one up. Sarah and I tried to create a system for referencing these numbers so that it would be easier for you to see at home. But our system is still working the kinks out. Which one did you need? The statue?
Sure. We'll start there. Sure.
It's labeled polytheism.
Yeah, let's talk about polytheism. Oh, NB 2016. It clearly is not a good system, but I really appreciate the boost. I need it. So yeah, so here we're looking at some kitsune in a Buddhist little temple, but also kind of representing Shinto aesthetics too. And I think this is such a cool place to talk about this, is that there's all these older religions and ideas that are feeding into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of picking it back out, going back to China, if you can go to number 2.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Going back to China, we're again talking about Taoism, and Taoism is its own kind of set of ideals that I don't want to dig in too deeply here. Ooh, that's exactly what I was looking for. This is the kitsune, as it would have been in historic China, right? So it had a completely different name, and my opinion is terrible, but something like Huiling.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, Huiling, something like this. But the idea, if you can go one more over.
It's our book cover.
Yeah.
Nice.
Derek was so shocked I wanted to include a book cover, so let me show him why this isn't a terrible idea, in my most humble opinion,
I just wanted to be sure.
He's like, did you know there's a book cover in here? I'm like, yes, because I think it's so important to share your sources. This book is a wonderful source on the very first beginnings of foxes in Chinese literature. And they come from these books.
Oh, Sarah, just real quick, lost your mic? Something get bumped, maybe? Sorry, folks.
Just kidding.
You're back.
Okay, so Huapen. We're talking about Huapen. They're these very old stories, and they're kind of a part of an analogy of storytelling that would kind of be considered like roadside gossip or small talk, right? And so they are kind of considered to be lesser important stories, but I think as most of us know, those are the most important kind, right? Gossip is like what goes around. And so the foxes really came from these very old stories in China. And this is a great book if you want to learn more about these particular stories. And there's some really great fox stories in here too that are from historical China. So we can go to number 3 and just see what it is.
Ooh, yeah, we're gonna play it risky, folks. What I'm gonna do for you at home is also give you the link to the traditional Chinese stories that we're mentioning here, just in case you want to grab it for yourselves.
I should preface that I didn't give you a link, Derek, because this book, it seems to be out of print and it is outrageously expensive. I really want it. I don't have it anymore either. It's like $200. Okay, anyway. Moving along. So from these stories, we have this very malicious kind of predatory fox, right? And so why would a fox be malicious or predatory, and why would it always be a woman? So these stories are kind of a great foundation for answering those questions. Again, going back to this idea of Taoism, and the idea is you're trying to kind of be in harmony with nature to live forever, right? Immortality was such a big deal. And the way that was considered was qi. Is everyone familiar with this term, qi?
Yeah.
In the chat, do you all know what this is? In Pinyin, it would be QI. In I think in more like a more Romanized version, it would be CHI, chi, like this. And in Japanese, it's KI, ki, like this, so like Aikido, Kido. So this kind of idea about energy. And when you're born, you get a certain amount from your mother. And the idea is your whole life is cruxed around this kind of ball of chi you get from your mother upon birth, and you steal it from her. So she doesn't get that back. She gives a bit of herself away every time she has a child. So that's like the chi you protect with all you have. I like to think of it like the center of an M&M, right?
Yeah.
And then you like have your candy coating on the outside that you're trying to sustain all your life, so you don't chip into your M&M chocolate, right? And how you sustain the outside stuff is by eating and sleeping. And actually mental health is a big part of Chinese medicine. Actually, it's not separate from physical health. They're one and the same, which is cool. That said, how else would you build that chi? You're only given so much, whether you're a fox or a person. So how would you build that chi? And this is where we're just going to real talk with you all for a moment. The way you get that chi that's a really fast and furious, quick way is through sex. So the idea is in a lot of these stories, you see these foxes disguising themselves as lovely women and luring men into these random locations. Yes, yes. Tell your mom sorry for all of the chi you've stolen from her, and you really should. You should tell her you appreciate all that chi she gave you every day.
Thank her profusely. Yep.
Yes, yes. 90-degree bows, friends. But yeah, so in these stories, it's super common that women are sleeping with these men. And the reason that the foxes would want to sleep with men is that through that act, men lose their chi and women take it. So men lose some of that core chi I just mentioned, that like stuff you get from your mom. That's like the good stuff. And so in these folklore, I guess, this is what the foxes really want. And it's this that kind of adds to their extended lives. And it helps them get all those tails and change colors and all of the bells and whistles that we think of when we think of kitsune. So I think it's kind of important in understanding this kind of Taoist and Chinese medicine aspect and helping us see the big picture as to why a kitsune does what it does. And then the next step, why is it a woman? And I think that this is a fun conversation that everyone can probably relate to in some way, just like Matt had said, that there really isn't much of a history in any part of the world that doesn't kind of do this to women in some way. But if you could go to the next slide.
Yep.
Or I say slide because I'm so used to that format. Next image.
I put all three up there since they were A, B, and C.
Oh, go one more forward. Can we go one more forward?
One more? Oh, chat, pretend
I'm
like you
looking
didn't
for
see it.
Amaterasu.
You didn't see this.
We'll go back. Don't worry. There's plenty to see.
Amaterasu is one of my favorites that find their way into a lot of media.
Yeah, I kind of just changed my mind in the moment which way we should go. So to begin, it's funny that women are treated this way in especially Japanese history, because if anyone isn't familiar, this is Amaterasu. And Amaterasu is the founding deity for the, negotiably, of Japan. And she is the goddess of the sun. So if you see that sun on the Japanese flag, these are all references to Amaterasu. And she was kind of, it for Japanese hierarchical kind of deities. And so it's really compelling that, this founding deity is a woman, and then things kind of move in this direction after that. So why would things move in that direction? I'm seeing lots of questions.
Yeah, we have a comment from Cheska's Online. Hello. Saying, I find this super interesting because of the modern and possibly more Western thinking surrounding losing virginity and how it tends to be very centered around young women. While this is about men losing something through sexual acts.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. I totally agree. And that's kind of what pulled my attention too. It's the foxes usually take the form of very young women, and it's there's a lots of accounts where people would blame like men who were sleeping with other women that outside of their marriage, if they were caught, they're like, oh, well, that woman was a fox, right? They could say this, oh, it's just a fox. They convinced me, they tricked me. And then that woman would be beaten, right?
So thinking about that in this kind of way, it's really not so different from thinking about like the witch trials, thinking about, oh, oh, um, spiders are often kind of like women, and what is it, like a succubus, these kinds of things. All of these ideas of women being kind of predatory when it comes to sex is really prevalent in this. And, you know, thinking about ways that women are kind of put into a marker, I think is compelling and telling of those who are writing the stories, which are men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about how important it is that these stories are all written by someone with some agenda, and the someone's for 9 out of 10 of these stories is men. Women in the court actually were not permitted to learn the Chinese characters for a very long time. So yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. But yeah, so, and I guess this is kind of, we can go back a couple slides.
Okay. You want those 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, cool. Sorry, I have a little lag. So these are some, for most of our chat today, I was hoping to find lots of woodblock prints that could kind of illustrate what I'm talking about rather than me just saying these very outlandish things. So it's really wonderful when someone else's artwork can do this for me. And these are 3 different prints, and they all are kind of outlining this really popular idea of women being foxes. And there's some ways you can tell in reflections, in like shadows. These are ways that you're supposed to be able to tell if a woman actually is a fox and how you can like out her. Another way is with dogs. Somehow dogs actually hate, or Kitsune hate dogs. So dogs should be able to find them, and you could like smear like fish paste on a person and have the dog lick it off, and the fox would leave that person if they were possessed by it.
Wow.
So that would convince me anyway. I wouldn't want that at all. But yeah, so I think this is like a good indicator here that, you know, foxes can be possessed by, or excuse me, women can be possessed by foxes, or they can transform into women. So it could be that you're taken over by a fox, or that you aren't real at all, you're actually a fox. And so there's, unfortunately, just like the witch trials, only one way to find out for sure, and that usually meant some kind of violence, right? But apparently you're supposed to be able to see the tail sometimes, but only if you set it on fire first. So no way to do that without some pain.
Would it be,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt, would it be fair
please.
to guess, because in my brushing in with how some of, as I would say some but not all, I don't want to broad stroke the events that happened within the Salem witch trials, but I do know that some of them were brought on by the hallucinogenic effect of people eating essentially molded bread. And claiming that the things that they saw were some of the witch acts in effect. That is just one facet of a great deal of events that affected women during that time period. Do you think that equally within claiming women to be kitsune, that there were certain elements, heavy air quotes, and hallucinations and things that they may have claimed that they saw to corroborate their evidence?
I don't know, but I have read lots of accounts of people saying, like, especially maybe not as much in the last like 50 years, but there's lots of accounts from people like maybe even like 20 years ago, like someone knows someone who was possessed by a fox. It's like this kind of a thing, you
Yeah.
know? And because it's so uh, part of like the cultural dialogue, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, totally, you know. And I think it's, you know, the witch trials seem to be a little more isolated in some ways, but
Certainly.
this idea about foxes is pretty all over the place and in lots of different ways and over a long period of time. um and then if we could go forward more.
Yeah. And would it be fair to say it sounds as though in the space of, say, China, Korea, and Japan, talking about kitsune might be as regular as, say, your uncle talking about how they saw a flying saucer here in the States?
I I can't say for sure because I'm not a person from historical Japan,
Of course.
but from the accounts I've read, that seems pretty likely. It seemed like, you know, everyone kind of knew about this, and if it wasn't a joke, then someone was half serious, kind of.
If only I could jump into Inuyasha's well to bring back another show that in both involves kitsune and dogs, so that we could find out for ourselves what the talk is back then.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I'd like to see a show where it's like a kitsune and a tanuki, like head to head, and have those kind of conversations together. That could be good. But
That's great.
this print here is the god Amaterasu, which here kind of looks like a woman inexplicably, but this is how things go in art sometimes. This is how it is. But you can see the little fox there to the left. And no one knows exactly how it first happened, but this Okami, or the god Inari, um, became really synonymous with the fox. And this is the fox, the Inari foxes that Matt was talking about. Zach, you got to get to Japan. You got to get there. You got to see it. And you won't miss it because this god here, Inari, is the god of agriculture, which is so important in Japan, more specifically rice. And rice is such an important resource in Japan that Inari was super popular. And I think the number is like about a third of all Shinto shrines in Japan are for Inari.
Oh.
So you really can't miss Inari. And they're always marked by those red torii gates. But the fox, I think in some ways it's interesting, is worshipped just as much as Inari as a god. Like the fox has become like a placeholder because we all think of the fox because the god is less tangible in our minds. But yeah, speaking of the fox there, I think people kind of chose the fox as a messenger for a lot of reasons. One would be that in rice fields, it probably killed things that were coming after the rice, like the rodents. But also that foxes are, like Matt had mentioned, a little liminal, right? They kind of are curious. They come back and forth from civilization to woods just a little. And so they'd be perfect people to carry your message back and forth. And if we can do another slide, another...
What kind of message would you send along to a fox? We have cell phones, we have mobile digital foxes now, but if we were in Edo, Japan, what would be your fox text message?
Are you talking to me or everybody? Because this should be for everybody.
I guess this is for everybody now. It'd be like BRB. I wonder how we. I immediately thought about how am I going to send an emoji to somebody, and I am definitely going to doodle out some piece of work and then just send that thumbs up emoji along with the fox so that they might be able to deliver it to a friend who's patiently awaiting whether or not I'm going to be coming over for dinner.
Yeah, what you all missed is that Derek's having lots of dinner debacle right now, so I'm sure it's on his mind. This is why you need to do more for Inari. This wouldn't have happened.
It would not if I only sent a few more messages, or maybe gave a bountiful donation to Inari. I would not be in this circumstance. I'll give
actually you will have the solution by the end of this conversation. I can promise you.
Sure.
Because well, before I move on to that, but you can definitely do more than send text messages to Inari from your house. But you can also understand them a little bit more through these guys that are always in front of the shrines. And they always come in a pair because this relates back to Taoist ideas about the yin yang kind of pairing where one's a male and one's a female. So again, these ideas are, in Shinto. And also to note, does anyone know what Shinto is? If I hear crickets, I won't be surprised, so don't feel badly. Shinto is a religion that came to be around World War II when Japan was trying to unify for the sake of military efforts and things. Shinto is actually just a blanket term for things that are practiced locally and in small groups. So there really isn't one idea about what Shinto is. The Japanese religion of purity. Yep, I think that's a good blanket term that has been kind of thrown around because it is like, yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on purity, but really, let's say someone in Hokkaido has these particular traditions, and someone in Kyoto has these particular traditions that they've always followed and their local community that held them. So the government, when they wanted to unify Japan a little bit more, rather than say, you can't practice that anymore, you do this, everyone was allowed to keep what they were already doing and just call it Shinto. Whatever you do is Shinto now, right? So when we talk about Shintoism, I think it's kind of a funny, it's a funny term. But on the back, on the last image that we saw, there were those two foxes. And I just wanted to note that whenever you see them, because this is one thing that I don't think we touched on with Matt,
and that is the foxes always have some really important little accessories with them.
Yeah, love those.
Yeah. And for this one here, this is a good one. You can see a key in the mouth of one and a ball in the mouth of the other. And that ball on the one on the right, that is something like that ball of chi I kind of mentioned that you get from your mom, right? So that's the fox's like its soul. It's like its life force there held in its mouth. And then, oh, we'll get there, Techno Yogi. You're right in
Yep,
line with our thoughts.
you're right on path.
And the key is for the storehouse where the grains would necessarily be stored, and it's kind of a euphemism for the fox itself because it is the storehouse. Okay. In any event, the key is for a place where rice is stored.
Now, is that
And
same ball the ball that is believed to be kind of residing in your abdomen?
ooh, Derek, deep cuts right now. I love it. Yes. So that's complicated. Okay. So okay. Backing it up.
Yeah.
What Derek's referring to is an pinyin called the dantian, and it's right below your belly button. And when you are breathing and meditating and cultivating chi, as you would while you do those things, you're focusing on your lower abdomen. I think a lot of people in Western thought feel like your soul is like maybe in your heart or in your mind, somewhere
Mhm.
like this. But for the dantian, or called hara. Yes, Paul, you know, because we
Right
do
on
those
it.
seppuku things together. No, we don't do seppuku things together. Don't be misled. This is a program. This
Wouldn't
is
be here if you did.
educational. We're all alive. It's not like this. But yeah, so when seppuku is committed, you're cutting your lower abdomen to let your spirit out first. So when you die, it can be released, and then your second takes your head, all of
Mhm.
that good stuff. But yes, it would be something like that. And if you could like visualize it, which is sometimes part of Taoist practices, you're like visualizing that chi in like a ball that's kind of being like held within. You see this little ball, like dragons are sometimes holding them too. Like it's not an uncommon um object, I
Mhm.
guess. So yeah, yes, Derek. Yes. I love
Hey,
that.
there's a funny story about Kappa involving the horror as well. But
Do you want to dish it?
well, in short, I would say to never accept a wrestling match from a Kappa. They're very slippery skinned, and their ulterior motive is to reach into your bumhole and steal your hara. So there you go. Some more anecdote about the
Oh,
hara. Yeah, keep it preserved.
Derek, if you were here, this would be like a moment for us to like high five or something. A
Just like
distant
air
one.
five and freeze frame on the
Yeah, yeah.
hara. Yeah.
You really followed up for the assist there. Yes. Yes. Something like that. And so I guess the way that the kitsune gets to it is by having sex with men.
Here you go.
Tapping
The
into that hara.
the
And the way
Inari.
Paul gets to it is by seppuku.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
Paul in chat right now is actually from the Mugaidu Iaido group, and he is a swift with the sword. How about that?
Yes, yes, Paul. We'll have to have some other conversations about that in the future. While we're at it, when touching the Inari and referencing those statues, um, could you tell viewers where one might see a lot of them in Japan, if ever visiting Japan, where a key place, maybe a mountain pass of sorts with tons and tons of torii, but
Oh, Derek, I have the distinct feeling you know exactly what you're asking
I
about.
do. It's my favorite place to go to.
Because we all go there every time we go.
Hmm.
Does anyone know the shrine or the temple that Derek's referring to before we spoiler alert it for you?
So good if you make it all the way to the top too.
Oh, a sunset up there is like that is that is the place to watch a sunset. Every time I go to Kyoto, that's where I watch my
Yeah.
sunsets. Yes,
Hey, thank you,
yes,
Techno
Fushimi
Yogi.
Inari. Yes, Fushimi Inari. The Fushimi Inari Taisha is actually its full name. And I brought some little things here that you could see from my last time there. These are like, guys, hold on. Okay. Woo, how do I do it so I'm not in it? Can you see this? Wait, like this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
So these are little statues you can buy and leave as offerings for, okay, for the foxes. And you leave them there and you buy them and you leave them with some incense or something like this. And then another thing you can do there is buy
mine's almost up. These only last for a year, friends, so it's kind of sad. Um, oh, yeah. So this is. Do you have this? Oh yeah, I got that one for you, Derek. This one's actually from Fushimi Inari Taisha.
Nice.
And you can see it because you can see that jewel just telling you about that's like in one of their mouths. And look at there's the key. So remember we talked about the key and the jewel. Boom. So if you get special omamori from certain shrines that you go to, and this is from Fushimi Inari, they're only good. Oh, will I come back in? Yeah, they're only good for 1 year. So, and then you're actually supposed to take them back to the shrine to have them disposed of, because things that you put lots of good feelings into, and this is true across lots of things in Japan, if you put lots of good feels into it, it eventually must be destroyed because your good feelings ultimately turn bad and end up causing you harm. So don't hold things too tightly, friends.
Yeah. I love that cyclical system there. It's very good.
Yeah. And Fushimi Inari, which we just like nerded out on for a moment, actually is in Kyoto. So it's like one of those things you can't not see when you go to Kyoto. And I might lose my chat. I can see this other thing going. It's fine. Okay. So yeah, I guess that kind of rounds us out. But also thinking about if you had any questions about um, how women are represented now in Japan, or how kitsune are kind of worshipped now, if that's changed. I am here for any and all kinds of questions, and I feel like Derek is actually not a stranger to this topic either. So
I've had my brushing ins with the topic, though not nearly as deep as you have covered it, and so I'm here to ask not only for chat, but also kind of jumping off what Techno Yogi has mentioned here. What do we usually offer as offerings to Inari, to Kitsune, and why?
yeah, cool, perfect. So here's how Derek would have got his food tonight if he was thinking ahead.
Yep.
So
The context of this is I'm having a whirl of a time with Caviar, who I thought would we would have our food, my partner and I, prior to the show starting. However, it looks like Caviar has entirely shut down and it is not working. but don't worry, I will have food yet.
And Inari is the god of agriculture and foods and sake and all things that rice brings, such as food. So this is why this is unfortunately quite relevant. What you would do is, one, you can buy the little statues that I had mentioned before and leave them as offerings. But the fox's favorite thing is something called aburage tofu, and that is what our next guest will tell us all about. So they will show you how to make them and how they make them and how you can order them. But you can also leave it as an offering in your own little space if you like to. That's the fox's all-time favorite food. Um, they also like incense. Incense are just like a general good call for anyone you want to please in Japan, because as Paul had mentioned, it really kind of sets into this concept of purity, and the smoke is supposed to cleanse you in some ways. So they're more apt to listen to you if you're clean.
In your in studying about the kitsune and all the different representations, how it has been primarily associated with women, did you still end up coming out with any favorite stories of kitsune, or kind of favorite discoveries of your own?
Yeah, and I think thinking of our last guest. Okay.
Matt?
There's too many yokai guys we have,
Yeah.
honestly.
We've got a
Zach
lot
Davison.
of talented people that know a lot about yokai.
Yeah. I was like, oh, but it wasn't Zach, it was Matt. Had said that oh, they aren't always bad, right? And it's really interesting to me that some of the stories are things, they always end sadly for women. I will say that they're never on top at the end. But sometimes, these men who have these foxes who have slept with men, they actually end up falling in love with them, and they'll start a long life with them, and sacrifice their lives for them, and do all kinds of things for these men that they thought they were just going to steal their chi, but ended up falling in love. And those stories are interesting to me, and understanding why those are also told, just to add, I guess, some more humanity to them, but also, I guess, make it more complicated, which I'm always for.
Yeah, adding a little bit of narrative depth to it. I guess in the context of the time, I'm sure certainly went appreciated. Um, I'm trying to think of other instances or other yokai that might be similar, and have certainly received. Actually, I'm going to pause on that and bring up Techno Yogi's latest question, asking, "Can you talk about the story of the fox wedding during a sun shower?"
Yeah, so Matt actually touched on it, and it seems that he is going to spend a lot of time talking about this in his new book. So I should plug his book one more time right now, because I think the book's actually called The Fox's Wedding.
The Fox's Wedding. It's not on his site or anything yet. However, it will be popping up on his site soon in Kickstarter this December.
He's been releasing all of these really lovely photos or artworks that he's been creating for it, so you won't want to miss it. And it's definitely a lot about that topic. But yeah, there is, I guess, which is kind of unrelated to most of these stories about women, in that these foxes also fall in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when they do that, if you happen to see sun shining on a rainy day, like this kind of a thing, rather than a rainbow, it's actually foxes being married. And as I kind of mentioned in our video, there's a really great portrayal of this in Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, which is one of the last films he made. And honestly, it's so beautiful if you haven't seen it. One of the vignettes of it has a whole scene of the fox wedding and this little boy who kind of has stumbled upon it and is trying not to be caught. But yeah, outside of that, I don't have too many other details for it. Is a fox marriage for a lifetime or of practical jokes? That feels relevant. That feels relevant. I think so. Maybe they don't play tricks on each other. I don't know.
That'd be some quality antics. I feel like the relationship where you're constantly pulling tricks on your partner would be hilarious. I don't know. I'd be partly down for the hilarity as long as there's a mutual understanding that we're both in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know, like, for example, like one of the ways you can get a fox out of someone if they're being possessed is, I mentioned before, you can like rub the fish paste on someone and have your dog lick it off. Sounds awful. But the other way is to just put the kanji for dog on someone's head. And I could just see like a couple constantly writing the kanji while someone's left on someone's head, you know?
Yeah, there you go. Chat, if you have any other questions. I almost lost the one that I was. Technoyogi says, "Thanks for answering the questions." Absolutely. That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
having these types of conversations. Oh, it was if they're thinking of other yokai or other representations that have also, I would say, would be kind of adjacent to these instances where they have used yokai to sort of justify diminishing women in the Edo period. And so, and another common one is the sort of oni, and usually a circumstance that occurs when a woman who had been say denied the love of a man in this case, and then because of their feelings inevitably turn into an oni, which is kind of a broad stroke of a Japanese demon. But
Yeah.
I wish you were a dog asked, do Kitsune have any enemies? And we'll take that as a final question before we bring in our next guest.
Yes, dogs. Which is funny because dogs are part of our show today too, in
Yeah.
the Kitsune show. But yeah, dogs are mortal enemies to the Kitsune. And I think that there is like a really strong rivalry between the Kitsune and the Tanuki, which we've spoken of before, the raccoon dog. They're both shapeshifters, and one's a little more kooky than the other, but I think there's some rivalry between them. Um, and I feel like in stories, it's often monks. Monks can also tell if it's a fox hiding, and they kind of bust them pretty quickly. So the monks are usually like on their tails, pun intended.
Not to name drop Inuyasha again, but now having a lot more of this context. Inuyasha is my favorite anime, by the way. But if now having more of this context, there's a lot more of that observation, very very much slow dripped throughout that show. And so having the context of that and placing it upon the characters that you visit with during the series makes it all the more interesting. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us and bearing these questions and allowing us to talk to you about Kitsune. But we are not done. We have another special guest with us to touch a bit more on the food side of everything. And so just bear with us for 1 to 2 minutes. We'll be right back to talk about some. Well, no, I'm just going to leave it as a surprise, unless you read the show details.
And if you're on our Instagram, I left a very detailed video of all of the coolness. So if you don't follow us already, you probably should.
Yeah. One more thing. Again, I mentioned in chat, but we do have sort of follow notifications turned off. And so I do want to say thank you to everybody who has followed the channel, subscribed, anything and everything in between. It's just to kind of keep the pace of the conversation pretty, uninterrupted by any notifications. But we absolutely appreciate everybody who's been following the show and keeping up with us all this time. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Tokyo House Party. And now for your commercial break. All right, Chet. Thank you for being so patient. It's pleasant. Actually, after talking about all the Inari things, it seemed as though the conversation did manifest my food, and so it is here. It is real. But we have more things to talk about as far as food goes. We have a very great and very cool guests with us today. Sarah, I want to hand it off to you to be able to. You both have been corresponding via email a little more than me, so I would love for you to.
Sure. Of course. Well, it's my honor, honestly. So we are here with Yuta-san, who is the founder of Onigiri Shuttle Kororin. And I have to say, even I know some Japanese, and that word is tough for me to say. It's tough. That said, I just am so jazzed to have Yuta here today because he just kind of like started this from the ground up here in Chicago. He's from Tokyo and he's making onigiri, which is kind of like the favorite food of everyone at all times a day, as a snack, as a meal, as a 2 a.m., as a no matter what. You can find them in konbini, but also my favorite restaurant in Tokyo is a onigiri shop that's near Asakusa Shrine. And it's like a 5-seater. It's my
Yeah.
if I were to recommend one restaurant to anyone in Japan, it's an onigiri restaurant actually. It's only open for lunch, but still. Anyway, so knowing that this exists in Chicago has been like a goal so that we could bring them on the show and tell you all about all the things that they're up to there. And we even asked them to create something special for you all, which they did. They created Kitsune sushi for you. It's on the menu right now, and you can still order it through next week. But I will turn it over to Yuta so that he can tell you more about Onigiri Shuttle Kororin himself and what they're up to.
Okay, sure. Hello, guys.
Hey, Yuta.
So, okay, let me share my screen now. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, there it is.
Yes. All right, so let's get started. So today I'm gonna introduce Inari sushi, which we just launched last week, and then we will have this menu until next week for you guys, and also a little bit about coloring. So this is today's agenda. I will introduce myself a little bit, and then main topic is gonna be what is Inari sushi, and then lastly I will just talk a little bit about the future of coloring, which we trying to bring in the Japanese combini culture in Chicago. So yeah, introduction. So my name is Yuta Katsuyama. I'm originally from Tokyo, Japan, and then I came here 2 years ago to study Master of Design and also MBA at IIT Institute of Design. I used to work as a management consultant in Tokyo, and then most of my client was in the food tech industry. So I'm really into food industry, and then so 2 years ago I came to Institute of Design to pursue MBA and Master of Design, and then like 4 months ago, this summer I just started Onigiri Shuttle Kororin by myself.
Oh wow! Congrats on doing that so quickly, and it's so recent. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still a student of Institute of Design, so.
That's amazing.
So what you're telling us is that you are extremely overworked right now and somehow doing it all.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because of this quarantine, all the classes are online, so it's easier for me to like take the class in the kitchen, taking the class while I'm driving. So
That's wonderful.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then for people who don't know about Onigiri Shuttle Kororin, so Onigiri Shuttle Kororin is a cloud kitchen onigiri restaurant based in the Hatchery, Chicago, which is the food business incubator located in near the East Garfield Park. So we make onigiri and we deliver to several pickup spots around Chicago. So we offer these like a yaki onigiri style meal, and also now we have a classic onigiri and also inari sushi. But yeah, we have various onigiri related products now.
Yuta-san, could you tell everyone what yaki style is and what onigiri are?
Okay, so onigiri is like a handheld Japanese snack made with rice, and also usually we have like a fillings inside the rice. It's like a sandwich for Japanese people. We eat we eat every day, almost all the time. I ate onigiri as a breakfast when I was in Japan, as a dinner, as a snack, like almost yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's sandwich, more than sandwich for me. Yeah, it's
One
like
of
a
my
Japanese soul food. I think.
One of my favorite things in Japan is absolutely stopping in. If there's onigiri available at the konbini, I make sure to grab it quickly because it's one of the things that you see go off the store shelves so fast if you arrive at the konbini too late in the morning. And so, yeah, it's very good.
Yes, yes. So and the yaki onigiri. Yaki means grilled. So there's like a grilled style onigiri, which is more. How can I say? We usually eat yaki style in the restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I really love yaki onigiri, so I wanted to bring this yaki onigiri style in Chicago. So, but we just started the classic onigiri as well, like a month ago. So, but our main product is this yaki style grilled onigiri, which is really good.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, because of that like toasted kind of like crunchy rice on the outside, it takes what is already an amazing onigiri and makes it to 11.
Mhm.
Yes. So, and our business model is a little bit unique. So we only accept pre-orders online. Like every week, we post a new schedule on Instagram, and then our customers check the schedule and pre-order online, and come pick up onigiri at Onigiri Shuttle, which is my like a car. It's just a Chevy boat.
It's a very cool name.
Yeah. And we have some partnership with shops like Top Drawer. It's a Japanese stationery company's sub company. Do you know Itoya, which is a stationery company in
I
Japan?
don't know. No.
There's
Itoya. No.
Itoya in Ginza, Itoya in Shibuya, and then they have a store in here called Top Drawer. So
Oh,
you can
cool.
pick up food at Top Drawer. And yesterday we just started the partnership with brewery, Hopewell Brewery. So you can pick up onigiri at their store, and you can also get their beer. So onigiri and beer is a great combination. So
That's wonderful.
Top shelf is, or top drawer is in Wicker Park, and Hopewell Brewery. What neighborhood is that in?
Logan Square.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I know. That's why I wanted to say
I'm
it. I'm
in
like,
Logan, so
yeah.
I'm like, aha. So some of our viewers at home, if you're also in Chicago, I hope if you haven't already, that you are starting to look up Kororin on Instagram and getting ready to follow and pre-order while Yuta tells us more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. And then you can just bring back to your house and enjoy onigiri. So this is like a simple version of what is Onigiri Shuttle Kororin. And I will explain a little bit more later, but let's jump into the main topic. What is Inari sushi? So I guess some audiences know what is Inari sushi. So Inari sushi is made by filling a portion of this sweet deep fried tofu with sushi rice, which is really good. Last week I launched this product, and then it's been a while to have Inari sushi, and then I just smiled when I tried this Inari sushi again.
Oh, it is so good. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
No, but
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I definitely added some Inari sushi to my order that I pre-ordered for this week.
yeah. So, but I guess only few people knows about the origin of Inari sushi. So I'm gonna explain about a little bit about the origin of Inari sushi tonight. Are you familiar with this shrine? It's
We mentioned it, yeah, earlier. If everyone out there remembers, we mentioned Fushimi Inari
yeah,
Taisha,
yeah.
and yeah,
So it's a Fushimi Inari Taisha. It's a shrine of the god Inari. It's in Kyoto. I guess a lot of tourists loves to visit this shrine.
they sure do. It's very
Yeah.
crowded.
Yes. So Oinari-sama is the god of rice and agriculture. So the beginning of the Inari sushi is to pray for the harvest. People in Japan offer Inari sushi to this Oinari-sama. And then this is just FYI, but Oinari-sama is the god of rice and agriculture, but nowadays people, merchants and manufacturers also worship Inari as a patron of business. So these like 1,000 of tori, these things,
The gates, yeah.
the gates was donated by Japanese businesses. That's
Wow.
why it's a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. If everyone sees those red gates and you're wondering why there's 1,000 of them and there's writing on all of them, what is that writing? The writing reflects whoever donated that gate, and it's probably a business.
Yes, yes, yes. So, but you may think, well, why Inari sushi for Oinari-sama? So the key is this fox. The fox is the messenger of the god Inari in Japan. And then people in Japan believe that foxes love abrage. And so we offer Inari sushi.
This is the cutest image ever. I love it.
It's perfect.
So yeah, but you may wonder why folks love abrage, because abrage is made by tofu, right? It's even it's protein, but I don't believe folks love the real abrage. What folks really love is, do you know? Can you guess?
Any guesses out there?
I can answer now. So what folks really love is mouse, right?
Is this for copyright issues?
So at the beginning, so people in Japan deep fried mouse and then offer to the god of Inari. So Inari is the god of Shinto, which is one of the religion in Japan. But 550 to 80, the Buddhism came to Japan, and the Buddhism forbid killing animals. So that's why we stopped giving mouse for the Oinari-sama, and then instead of that, we gave tofu we start giving tofu for Oinari-sama. So this is the beginning of the Inari sushi. And now Inari sushi is really popular food in Japan. You can find, when I was in Japan, I eat almost every week. Because you can find in a convenience store.
Yeah.
This is a 7-Eleven. I went back to Japan last year, and then this is from my neighborhood 7-Eleven. So
nice.
These are Inari sushi, like these regular Inari sushi and onigiri shaped Inari sushi. So Inari sushi is really popular food in Japan now. So yeah, you can find these kind of 3 Inari sushi in the convenience store. The 7-Eleven introduced this like onigiri shaped Inari sushi, which is super popular now. There's like several flavor Inari sushi, ume, and Oracle and sesame inari sushi set. This is sweet potato and inari sushi, like a inari sushi bento set with
Oh.
these eggs. This is
Oh, what's this?
like a steak inari sushi. I never tried
Google
it.
it.
Steak.
Yeah,
Oishiso, oishiso.
so yeah, steak inari sushi, and this is my personal favorite, wasabi inari sushi.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, wasabi has like a stem, and
Mm.
the stem part is also not
Mm.
spicy. Yeah.
Yuta-san, I want to say that I'm taking note of where these all come from. I can see some are Family Mart and some are 7-Eleven, and I needed to take note because they don't always all have the same things. And now that I know that the wasabi one is at 7-Eleven, that's where I will go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess Family Mart and the other convenience store have wasabi inari as well, I think, because it's really popular flavor.
I only trust you, but okay.
Yeah, you just gotta toss Lawson's in there to see which ones they have as well.
Mhm. The combination of this sweet deep fried tofu and also the wasabi is really great. So
Mhm.
yeah, and yeah, that's everything about inari sushi. So if you have any question, just ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a question. In I guess in bringing Inari sushi to Chicago, were there any challenges in figuring out how to make it properly, how to package it, any bumps in the road creating kororin?
Actually, it was not that difficult to launch Inari Sushi. Because now we have a Japanese food supplier in
Mm,
Chicago. They have Inari Sushi, the ingredients for Inari Sushi.
got it.
And compared to our onigiris, yaki onigiri have a lot of ingredients. I need to mix everything, and I make the onigiri shape and also burn the onigiri, so it
Yeah.
takes time. But inari sushi is more simple. I love our own inari sushi, which has simple sesame flavor in it. So the combination of like a white rice and the sweet inari and also the sesame is really great. But it was not that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's important to note too. If anyone out there hasn't had an Inari sushi yet, but so the little pocket outside, that's the fried tofu. It's soft and it's very sweet too. So it's been sweetened. But then the rice in the inside, as Yuta-san had said, it's sushi rice, which means it has some vinegar in it. So it cuts that sweetness, so it's not overwhelming. It's kind of like this perfect balance of sweet on the outside and kind of tangy on the inside, and then with the savory sesame seeds. I hope I'm selling this now because this is why it's one of my favorites. But yeah, it's like it's a very complex little ball of goodness. So yeah, I think like you'd be surprised to actually try it and know what it tastes like.
I have a question from Paul. Actually, two questions. First one is, how many can you make it in a day? How many Inari sushi?
How many? If we make only inari sushi, I guess we can make 250 inari sushi.
Oh, wow.
Because I guess when we were super busy, we made like a 250 onigiris by just two members. I have co-founder. Her name is Christina. She's from Mexico. But yeah, by only two people,
Wow.
we can make 250 onigiris. But I guess that is limit now. So we need to expand the production capacity.
Yeah. Oh, so that was actually, that leads into my question. You said you need to expand production, and so what has been the reception in Chicago? Has it been, are people rushing to grab kororin? You said you need to expand, so are you running out when you have to fulfill pre-orders? I hope it's doing really well.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been great. Especially summer was super busy. Almost every day we are sold out.
Wow.
Yeah, but now we are trying to not just expanding the number of orders for the day. We are more focusing on expanding the lineups of our menus.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
yeah, we can introduce more Japanese culture in Chicago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another question from Paul was, what is your favorite onigiri?
My favorite onigiri is tarako, which we have in the classic onigiri set, which is how it's a cod roll,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, baked cod roll. And also I like pickled cucumber onigiri.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was in Japan, I always had this pickled cucumber onigiri. I made by myself, and I just had it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
sounds
haven't tried
delicious.
that one yet. I need to try the vegan set still, which I think that's what Derek probably ordered. So
I did.
yeah, for everyone out there, there are things for everyone. There's a whole set that's just for people who are vegetarian and vegan, and sets that have a more spectrum of ingredients. So yeah, there's stuff for everybody there.
Yes. So we think onigiri as a canvas. So onigiri is just rice, right? So it can be anything. It can be a vegan onigiri. It can be a Chinese onigiri. It can be a Mexican onigiri. It's just rice. So we can change the ingredients, and then it's open to everyone. So that's why we have vegan onigiri. And then now, me and Christina, and also we will have a partnership with one of the Mexican restaurant soon, and then we were trying to make a Mexican onigiri.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. That sounds super good. I love that. I love that, and that absolutely identifies with our community that makes up the Japanese Arts Foundation and Japanese Culture Center, because there's so many people from diverse backgrounds coming to share this passion, and so I can't wait to see what the intersection of Japanese and Mexican cuisine shows up in onigiri. Keikon asks, if you were to make a Chicago non-traditional onigiri, what would you put in it?
So actually, we already have non-traditional onigiri,
Ooh,
which is
yes.
corn cheese pepper onigiri.
Oh yeah, that one's so good.
So yeah, we put cheese and corn and pepper on in the onigiri, which is really good.
Oh, it sounds
So
like
yeah,
elotes. It
so
sounds.
actually, yeah, I'm a student of the design school, and then I took observing users class, which is a class for how to observe users, and then I tried the classic onigiri before. I brought some just rice and also salmon flakes, and I tried it. But some people didn't like it because it's too simple for these people.
Mm,
There's an African student, a friend, and then there was a Chinese friend, and but most of the culture, even though they eat rice as a main meal,
Mm,
they cook with something cook with oil and salt, cook with
mm,
some seasonings. Even Mexican food has some rice, but it's seasoned, right?
mm-hmm.
So a lot of people didn't accustomed to have these plain rice and fish. So that's why I shifted to more localized flavors. Yeah.
That sounds delicious. Now, if for anybody who may prefer the more traditional onigiri, do you have those options available as well?
Yes. We have ume onigiri, the pickled plum onigiri, pickled plum, which is ume onigiri,
Mm.
and pickled cucumber onigiri, tarako, the cod roll onigiri, and
And Inari sushi.
namayo,
Mm.
inari sushi, and
Mhm.
namayo.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So someone out there really wants to know what's going to go into this Mexican flavors of onigiri and where. where's the restaurant? What's going to be in it?
So we are still like a
It's top secret.
Mm.
Top
be-
secret.
To be announced, Keikon. But thank you for the question.
But my image is like so there's a taco rice in Japan. So there's an island called Okinawa in Japan. It's a southern island. So there's a U.S. Army base in there. So there's a mixed culture of U.S. and also Japan.
Mhm.
And so Okinawa Island, there's a food called taco rice, which is just rice with tacos ingredients, which is
Okay.
really good.
I bet it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to bring that kind of, yeah,
I can't wait.
in onigiri. We are planning to use chorizo of that restaurant, and I guess it's gonna be really good. onigiri.
I am sure it's going to be so good. And you already have a huge fan base already willing to try it right now. They want to know it.
Yes, we will post on Instagram, so please follow my Instagram.
Yes, and I'm sure that there are links in the chat, wherever the chat is at the moment, because I can't see it anymore, about how to find Onigiri Shuttle Kororin and how to order. It's really simple. I did it this week, and I am the least tech savvy person in the world, as everyone is well aware. So it's super easy. And I actually picked mine up from Top Drawer, which, as he had mentioned, is the loveliest store. And when I went in there to get my onigiri, they gave me a $5 coupon for when I come back to buy something else, which I will.
Nice.
So yeah, it's such a cool store, actually. Yeah, it's also simple, and there's no reason not to do it. And also the other part of I had read, I don't know if it's true, this is hearsay as it all is, but another reason that the Inari sushi is so loved by the foxes is that the little corners look like fox ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it looks like a little fox, little pockets, the corners. Oh, and also kitsune udon, which we didn't mention, but those same things are used. And one of our favorite meals, my all-time favorites, like one of my death row meals, is kitsune udon. And it's the same kind of tofu it's in it, and that's why it's called kitsune udon. Is it has that fried tofu that foxes love so much.
Yes.
Nice.
And also the color of that aburage is similar to fox color, so that's why we call kitsune aburage. We call aburage kitsune sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Awesome.
I learned so much.
Yeah. Yuta, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join us and share with us about Kororin. I cannot wait to have some onigiri this week. And I hope that the viewers at home are following you online and making some pre-orders themselves. Are there any no pressure if there isn't, is there any news or updates that you wanted to provide viewers at home, or anything else that you wanted to share with us before we cut our conversation?
Actually, I have a list of the presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
please.
yeah, please. Sorry.
It's gonna be quick.
No, take your time.
No. So it's a future of Kororin, a little bit about the future of the Kororin. Do you see the
Perfect.
screen now?
Yep.
Yes.
So we are trying to bring in the Japanese convenience experience to Chicago, which is our new goal. But what is konbini? Konbini is a convenience store, but in Japanese context. So in Japan, the convenience store, konbini, is more than just a konbini in the US, convenience store in the US. So it's more, so we define konbini as so they have a unique and high quality products. And then the hospitality is totally different in Japan. And it's always just around the corner in Japan. So I'm from Tokyo, and every 5 minutes walk, there's a konbini everywhere. So we are trying to make these konbini experience in Chicago. So they have a unique and high quality product. So we are expanding our products at the Kororin. So we have some drinks, Inari sushi, this like strawberry mochi daifuku, and some snacks, which is these selection are my favorites. And also hospitality. So since we need our customers need to pick up the food from us, so we can talk with customer. So we enjoy talking with customer. So this is Christina, my business partner. So we are trying to make as like a nice experience as possible. And in Japan, always just around the corner. Convenience always everywhere. So now we are expanding the delivery pickup locations. Also, we
Oh.
are expanding the partnership like Top Drawer. We have a new partnership with the brewery, and then we will have more and more partnership. We will announce soon, but it's gonna be a lot of pickup spots.
That's exciting.
So yeah, and then how we gonna do this is like so this is about like a kyoso. This means competition, but there's another kyoso, which is this is not what we want to do. Like we don't want to compete. We want to kyoso, which is the same pronunciation, but this means co-creation. So we have a lot of partners now. We are just a 4 months old company, but we have a Japanese tea company partner. We make a delicious porkberry onigiri with ramen tatsunoya. We have like a pickup option with Masa Madre. They are a bread company, and then hot box sushi. We have a new partnership with Top Drawer and Hopewell Brewing Co. And there will be a new pickup location next week, rotating market. So you can pick up anywhere in these shops. So this is what we want to do. So by co-creating these experience, we will try to achieve this, bringing the Japanese convenient experience to Chicago. So this is our new like goal. Yeah, that's it. It's so yeah, and then next week and this week we will have this schedule. So if you are interested in our business, please come join us. And then this is like my contact and then Instagram account. So that's it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad it worked out so well. That question filled up. There was so much more to offer, and I'm glad we didn't miss it. This was super exciting. Just in case, are you able to back it to that previous frame? Just in case anybody wants to take down that schedule. For those of you at home, take a picture, write it down, or pre-order using that QR code right away and save it for later. That's really great.
And
Yes.
Yuta-san, I just wanted to say that since you can't see the chat, unfortunately, everyone, just he can't see the chat, but to tell you, we have Yuta, you are fantastic, and this is great, and everyone is so jazzed. So we are all so appreciative of everything you're doing here in Chicago.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate support from our customers. I really love. Sometimes entrepreneurship is really hard, and my working schedule is crazy. But every time I talk to my customer and see how our customer loves our product, every time I feel okay, yeah, it's worth doing it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I feel like you've chosen such a really wild time to support everyone with what you're doing. Your model doesn't require anyone to go inside, doesn't require anyone to leave their homes necessarily. You're meeting people where they are and giving them the space to take it away and enjoy it. And it's a food that can travel well. So I feel like in this moment where we're really limited in the things that we can have and do, like what you're doing is like, it's the best. It's the best.
I really like the metaphor that you just drew there. Like, in the state that we're in, to the metaphor of convenience that you touched on and that you brought here, Yuta, makes that so very special, and I think there's like a few more yarn balls to tug on that thought of like the theories that are kind of coming along with Kororin, and so that's exciting. I have like a warm feeling in my stomach, both because I can't wait to eat them, but also because this has been such a wonderful and touching conversation. And I love that people are so excited and that you're being supported. And I can't wait for to support it myself.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we could have you back, maybe we can have you back again, and you can tell us more about all of these wild new onigiri and all of the cool new things you're doing.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks again, Yuta-san. To our viewers at home, we'll be just right back. Don't go anywhere because there is more Tokyo House Party. Alrighty, and we are back. Yes, again, chat. Thank you for asking all these wonderful questions, and I hope you're super excited about onigiri. If you haven't had it before, you're in for a really huge treat because it is so good. And so, for those of you who are in Chicago, please take advantage of Yuta's onigiri because I'm so excited. I can't say that enough.
I know this like one man show is so impressive too. So I feel like this it's like a hometown hero like all over the place. This is great, and I hope that you all try it. And again, he made the kitsune udon or kitsune inari sushi
Mm-hmm.
just for you and just for the show. So make sure you try it while he still has it, and then let us know that you loved it too.
Speaking of retro, Fort said, join late, furiously hoping they bring back the pork belly ramen onigiri. That sounds delicious. Vegetarian me cannot partake, but it sounds so good. I'll
I
be
can
eating up the
say
vegan ones.
non-vegetarian me did have a pork belly one earlier in the week, and it was delicious.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know if it was ramen, whatever it was like just eating that one. And I feel like I shouldn't ramble anymore, but you think that you need a whole bunch of these, but you need like two. They're packed full of stuff, and you're like, this isn't gonna be filling. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Like I could barely eat that pork belly one plus the kitsune ones, and then I
Yeah.
had to stop. I was like, oh, this is so much. But yeah, they're definitely meals.
Faraway Gaming says, I'll try some Tuesday at Arlington. That's going to be great. As far as filling goes, this I completely, I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier. So, funny college story of, broke college Derek, probably eating predominantly fruit and cereal at the time. I also ate a lot of rice, and onigiri was one of the things that, thanks to anime, I would have otherwise not found out about. And I said to myself, I'm gonna try to do this, and ended up looking up a recipe to make onigiri. But yeah, just the traditional kind of like hand packed onigiri. And so you are absolutely right. The first one that I made, I completely overshot how big or how small I should make it, thanks to the disproportionate scale of again anime. And so I made one that was way too huge and got way too full. But it definitely coasted me through a lot of college lunches and evening meals as well.
Yeah. I think it's important to know, like, you're like, oh, that rice looks so small, but it's a bunch of rice condensed, people. It
So
is
much rice.
sits in your stomach. So yeah, in any event, we almost didn't realize how great our timing is tonight to say that we have one more awesome guest coming up. And as I had mentioned earlier, that this whole show, if we still have Sci-Fi Barbie with us, I don't know if Sci-Fi Barbie is still here, because Sci-Fi Barbie is the mom of Casanova, who is the sheep that actually came from our yes, Elaine, I'm so glad you're still here. So our next guest is the Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue, and Elaine, who is in the chat today, actually adopted two sheeps from the Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue, and one of them sadly passed away just last week or so. And so this whole episode is for Casanova, who is given so much love throughout his life as such a lover, as I'm sure Casanova had to be. And we're just so grateful for the Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue joining us today to talk about the important work they do, like connect lovers like Casanova to all of us. And Derek, is there anything else you wanted to add? I think you might want to.
Yeah. Yes. Well, first of all, shout outs to Casanova. Elaine, I think you and I talked briefly where I also mentioned that I have a little, well, not so little anymore, but I should say a full pup named Miles, who was also adopted from MSIR for 3.5 years ago now. And so they're really wonderful people. The only other thing that I'll mention here is that there was a slight recording technical difficulty that occurred where you can hear Sarah and the folks at MSIR very, very clearly. I, however, am not coming in at all. And so what I did to fill that gap was the questions that I asked will appear on screen so that our conversation is not interrupted. And it actually flows pretty nicely, so no worries there. But pay attention close, because MSIR there are some really, really great details. They're an organization that you should absolutely support. They even mentioned that if you are interested in adopting or fostering Shibas, definitely contact them because they are always looking for individuals to do that. So without further ado, let's check it out.
This is Tokyo House Party. And on Tokyo House Party, we really love to connect with everyone who's stuck at home with all of the fun things about Japan in Chicago. And so tonight is our fox night or kitsune night. And so we couldn't resist combining foxes and Shibas because if anyone wants to kind of connect with a fox here in Chicago, this might be the closest they're gonna get. And plus we're all such hard Shiba lovers. So we were so glad to connect with you all. Yeah, so welcome to Tokyo House Party. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, we'll let everybody know how they can know you better.
My name is Whitney, and I am the adoption coordinator for Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue.
And I'm Jess. I am the intake coordinator for Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue.
It's so nice to have you all here. So
Thank you.
we have so many questions and we're so glad that you've joined us today. We can't say that enough. We're your biggest fans and seeing all these Shibas come around on your social media is kind of the joy of my day, to be honest. Momo's too. She hides her excitement under a deep mask, but she is very excited.
Typical Shiba.
Pretty much, yeah. I wonder if you could tell us, for everyone out there who doesn't live with a Shiba and doesn't know much about Shiba Inus, a little bit about this breed and what makes this dog so special.
Awesome. So Shibas are the smallest of the Inu family. There's several variations of dogs. So a lot of people know about Akitas. And so oftentimes you'll be walking out with your dog and they'll be like, oh my God, is that a miniature Akita? And I'll be like, yes, it's a Shiba Inu as opposed to an Akita Inu. They come in 4 colors that are recognized by the breed. So you have your black and tans, you've got your sesames. Reds are what most people see. So that's the classic Doge Shiba is a red. And then they also come in cream colors. They're great dogs in the fact that they're small and mostly apartment friendly. Of course, some of us have monster Shibas. I have one that's 40 pounds. He's a little big. But oftentimes they're under 25 pounds, which make them really nice apartment friendly dogs. They love going walking. That said, they're very good hunters. So living in the city, your Shiba's gonna love to find all the rats and the mice and all those wonderful things that happen in the city, which maybe you like, I don't know.
Shibas are also very independent. They're an interesting mix between like a cat and a dog. And so a lot of what we do in rescue is educating on the breed. People get really excited. They see this cute dog on the internet and they're like, I really want to have one of those. And we do a lot of education. It's like, hold on. You're not ending up with a poodle. You're not going to get a golden retriever. Like this dog is very cat-like. They're very independent. They don't aim to please you. And a lot of times they just kind of do whatever they want, whenever they want. And so if you've ever been around a cat and interacted with a cat, you're going to have a cat-like personality with some dog traits here and there. So like the hunting and, going to the bathroom outside, but then also the cat personality is like, I am not interested in affection or attention right now.
Yeah, as intake coordinator, I get a lot of people who are coming in thinking, oh my God, it's the cutest dog, because they are. They've got the cutest faces and they're so sweet. And then they discover that the Shiba doesn't act like a golden retriever. They're a little bit more standoffish. They need their space. They have their own thing going on. So you have to want a dog that's like a Shiba. They're not going to be that happy-go-lucky, love to see you come home type of animal all the time.
I think one of my favorite things about the breed is they are incredibly loyal to their people. So my Shiba is just great. Her name is Pip. She's about 20 pounds. She's the typical red that you see. And she loves my husband and she loves myself, but she does not really care about anybody else. So if you come over and hang out like outside quarantine times, like she's not going to come up to you like you, but she's very attached to us. So they do become very attached to their pack and their people.
It's so true. It's everyone will see us walking on the street and they'll be like, your dog's so cute. Can I pet it? I'm like, well, you can try. But she's probably going to give you what I call the classic Tokyo drift, which is she does it with these hard, no, she's not going to let them. And they just see their disappointment in their face. But at home, she's like, for her and I, we're just like the duo here. And everyone who knows me, that I mostly identify through my dog, and she covers all of my everything, and we just hang out every day. So as a one-on-one dog, she's like, oh man, my best friend. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've been around for quite a while. I can't tell you exactly when we started. I know that our current president, Joanna, has been with the group for about 10 years. And before that, it was run by another couple who's still like tangentially involved, but they moved out of the Midwest. Strangely enough, there are a lot of Shibas in the Midwest, unfortunately, due to commercial breeding practices. So there's a lot of commercial breederys in the Missouri area, Iowa, those types of areas that specialize in these unique breeds like Shiba Inus. And that's why we exist and why we are probably one of the bigger rescues that are available for Shiba Inus in the US, simply because this is where a lot of those commercial breederys exist. And so a lot of the fosters that we take in are coming out of those situations. They've been used as stock. I won't get into too much detail, but they've been in those farms for a long time, and they leave those farms and they become fosters with us. And so that's where we really spend a lot of our time and have a lot of our roots. Of course, we'll take in dogs from people who are in different situations. They need to give up their dogs, but a lot of the dogs that we're working with are coming out of those commercial breeder situations.
So the other thing that we do, kind of going back to the education point, is when someone wants to adopt from us, we do a lot of education about why it's important to adopt a dog or rescue a dog versus purchasing from a breeder or a pet store. And we do a lot of education about some of kind of the negative aspects of commercial breeding, and then why it's important to, and kind of how we get these dogs and what happens, and kind of the struggles they have when they sort of adjust to what we consider like a normal family pet life and things like that.
Totally. And I think that's part of this show is what we're trying to, since we're like in the future past right now with you all, in the future when this show airs, we will be talking about the Japanese fox and kind of its mythology and all of its presence in folklore, but and how they can be supported, but also locally and with your organization and others like you, how what is the work that you really do, and like how many Shibas would you maybe take in a year? And, you know, if someone out there wants to support you, how can they do that?
Good question. So let's start with, there's 3 ways that Shibas come into our rescue. So the first way that Shiba will come into our rescue is an owner or a person will surrender that dog to us. They'll reach out to us and say, I can no longer care for this dog for whatever that reason is. I'm moving, my parent is sick, we can't do it. So what we do then is we go out and evaluate that dog. We send a person out with a Shiba to kind of temperament test them and see what kind of environment they would do well in. Second way is we get contact from a shelter, which is similar. Shibas don't do well in shelters. Not that any dog does, but Shibas in general are just kind of higher anxiety dogs, and they don't excel in the shelter environment. So we will take in a shelter Shiba, which is how Miss Grace ended up here with us. She came from a shelter in Southern Illinois. And then the third way is a commercial breeder. So if they produce dogs that have like heart defects or joint problems, or if they're just done breeding those dogs, they've kind of aged out of the system, a lot of times these commercial breeders will reach out to us. And what we do is we function to sort of rehab these dogs and kind of bring them into a home environment and adopt them out to families. So
yeah, and we're very specific on the way in which we take in dogs from breeders. So some other groups will purchase at auction dogs from breeders. We do not support that, because that is still giving money back into that sort of approach and encouraging people to continue to breed these dogs. You need to understand that when dogs are with commercial breeders, they're not treated very well. There's no real humane conditions for these dogs. Even the lives that we give to our typical livestock, like cows and pigs and those things, that's not how these dogs are being treated. I have 2 that came out of commercial breeders, and both of them came in incredibly sick with terrible, just terrible infections and various other health problems. And so that's what we're really trying to fight against, is to stop that circle of commercial breeding. So we are a part of a group of a bunch of organizations. One of them is called Bailing Out Benji. And we work hard to stop the commercial breeder trade and to educate people on why you do not want to buy from a pet store and why you do not want to buy a dog on the internet. If you really want to work with a breeder, make sure you get to meet the mom of the dog that you are adopting or buying from that breeder. So we talk about show me the mama. Show me the mama. Show me what that mom looks like. Let me see that that mom is living in good conditions. And don't just trust a photo that they send you. Make sure you're seeing that actual space. I know it's hard in COVID, but it's really important, because otherwise you're perpetuating a cycle of these animals being treated terribly. So that's part of what we do is when we work with these breeders, we're trying to convince them to leave and get out of this business. But we want these dogs to have a humane life. And so we will take in the ones that they're giving up.
So once those dogs come into our care, we operate through a foster home system. So none of our dogs go into a shelter environment. None of them go into a cage type situation. They are all living in homes with people, families. We expect our foster homes to treat the dogs like they're part of the family. So when you have a foster, you're expected to bring them in and work with them on leash training, potty training, all of that stuff, because we really want these fosters and these pets to be successful in homes. In order to do that, they have to be part of the family. So all of our dogs are in homes with volunteers that we have vetted, that we have gone through an application process with, so we know that these dogs are being well taken care of. And then we also bring all these dogs up to medical care when they come to us, no matter which way they come through us, whether it's an owner surrender or a shelter transfer or a breeder. All dogs are spayed and neutered. That's part of our contract. It is actually required to adopt. And then we bring them up to date on all vaccines, so rabies, things like that. And then we do any other care. So if they need to have teeth removed, or if they have a knee that needs to be replaced, or things like that, allergies that need to be addressed, those are all things that we do to bring them up to date on care, to make sure that they are in the best condition they can be.
Yep.
That they're healthy and comfortable and spoiled.
Spoiled, definitely spoiled.
As they should be.
If you want to learn anything about us, our website is shibarescue.org. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We share any dog that's available for adoption. Oftentimes they're on social before they make it to the website. It's the way the world works now, right? So you could follow us on Facebook at Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue, or you could find us on Instagram under Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue. And then of course there's our website, shibarescue.org. We've got these adorable shirts. I see you're wearing yours. We are selling adorable shirts. We've got some adorable masks that were designed by Jen Rary, who is a 3-time adopter from us. So she's gotten 3 Shibas from us. She's based in Kansas City, and she did this amazing artwork that we're wearing. So we've got shirts for sale if you want something like that. If you just want to donate, that's great too. We have wish lists for our foster dogs. So when a foster dog comes in and we need some gear for them, we'll start up wish lists for them. So if you want to buy something on Amazon to take care of a dog. And if you're interested in being a foster home or adopting from us, we have forms online that you could fill out, and someone like Whitney or I will come and answer all your questions directly about Shibas and help you figure out what you need to do to be a foster and adopter with us.
Yeah, and I guess for all those out there who are now like, oh man, I really want to connect with these guys, and I really need one, especially because I can give them all this attention now that I work from home. So what, oh my gosh, who's this?
This is Forrest. So Forrest is a commercial breeder rescue. He was in a breeder farm for 6 years, and then they let him out, or 8 years. Oh my gosh, how old are you? It might have been 8 years. They let him out. When he came in, he didn't know what people were. He had no idea what stairs were. He knew nothing about life. We had to teach him everything. And so he's still a little scared, but he's just our sweet little boy now.
So cute. Well, if let's say he was someone out there would love to, let's say he's not a part of your family. Let's say he's up for adoption. What kind of home is a good fit for a Shiba? What kind of what are your parameters, I suppose, for us deciding this is a good place for this guy?
That's a really great question. So when someone adopts, or someone applies to adopt, what they do is they fill out an online application, which comes to my email, and we look at each application, and we try to place the dog in a home that's going to be good for them. So Forrest, for example, because he is a little bit more timid and scared because of his background, he's not someone that would do well in downtown Chicago. He would not do well living in the Loop or things like that. Those loud city buses and all the horns and the hustle and bustle would not be good for him. So a dog that would be able to live in the Loop would be someone that's maybe socialized a little bit more, or a puppy where they could kind of learn to live with some of those sounds. Someone like Forrest needs kind of a calmer environment, maybe a home with either no children or older children. He also does really well with the fenced in yard because he's not a great leash walker, because he doesn't really know what a leash is, or when he came in, he does now, but things like that. So we really try to find a home where the dog is going to be successful and one that's going to match their personality and their needs. So a lot of times someone will write a really great bio for a dog and post them online, and we'll get 25 applications for one dog. And we'll be able to look through those applications and say, you know what, this dog is really timid. He's really scared. He's really fearful. Like, he needs kind of a quieter home that has more space for him or her to run. And that's kind of how we kind of filter out applications or go through the process, is figuring out where that dog's going to be the most successful.
That sounds extremely kind and very collaborative. That's really lovely. It's really lovely.
Yeah. And the other thing is we work very closely with our foster homes. So this dog is not in my house, so I don't know what Forrest is going to need. So I work very closely with Jess, actually, who was the foster home for Forrest at the time, and reached out to her, what kind of environment would Forrest do well? And even though I'm the adoption coordinator, it's not my place to ask or to say, you know, Forrest is going to go live here. We work very closely with our foster homes to decide the type and place and environment, because they're the ones that are living with the dogs and feeding the dogs and walking them and doing all of that. So our foster homes are such a big part of our organization.
And one of the nice parts about fostering with us is, as a foster home, you get the opportunity to have a say in where this dog is going. You know, oftentimes with other groups, there's so much stuff going on where there's dog shows and things like that, where people are having meet and greets with dogs that the foster home doesn't get to be a part of. With us, because you're the foster home, you know this dog so well, and we really want these dogs to be successful because Shibas are particular. We make sure that the foster home gets to know who the adopter is going to be, as well as, you know, they know their dog, so they get a say in whether or not the dog is going to be successful in that home and whether or not they go. So it's one of the best things about fostering with us, is that even though you're giving this dog up and you're finding a different home for him, you get a hand in it, and it's very rewarding.
Or in Forrest's case, you just never leave your home.
I've only kept 3 of them.
Only 3.
Only 3. I think I'm up to 26 fosters have come through this house.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I've only kept 3 of 26. I think that's pretty good.
That is good. I don't think I could do it. I would just have like a commune of Shibas, and we just live our lives that way. That was my next question, is if you are a foster, do you have the option to maybe form a bond with that dog and you just become forever friends?
Yeah, so the couple things, we always give our foster homes the opportunity to adopt first. They're taking this dog into their home. They know them. They have the opportunity to adopt first if they want. Second thing is, with COVID, we've kind of actually had to pivot and change our adoption process, because we are also trying to limit the spread of the pandemic as soon as we can. So we've actually transitioned more to a foster to adopt process, where we will kind of still do, instead of an in-person home visit, we do a virtual home visit. And then what happens from there is, say you reach out and you want to adopt Forrest, what we'll do is we'll do some sort of transfer where Forrest will come live with you for 2 weeks. You essentially become the foster home, and then with the intention that you will adopt him. So it's kind of like a try before you buy. You're actually getting to live with this dog for 2 weeks, as opposed to just meeting them and taking them home that day. This actually came up because of the pandemic, and it just is not going away. And we've had quite a bit of success with this over the last 9 months. So
yeah,
thankfully we haven't really had to stop adoptions. We've been able to continue to operate, and it's been good.
It's wonderful. I was wondering that too, actually. When you said that, I'm like, oh, that must be really difficult. Yeah, I'm curious.
They're very neutral experiences. So we've got certain people who have relationships built up over time. In particular, Bailing Out Benji has worked hard to make inroads in with these commercial breeders. And so between people there and then other people in our organization who have one-on-one relationships with people at these commercial breeders, they really do a lot to manage that communication. We don't share out any information about the commercial breeders, where they're coming from. We try to keep that very under the radar, because again, we want them to continue to come with us and continue to talk with us in hopes that they will stop what they're doing. And so when we work with them, it's very specific people that go and take in the dogs and bring them to get vet care right away, who get them out of that situation that they're in. So it's, I would say it's a neutral experience. We do our best to be civil and polite, despite the fact that we disagree significantly. We do our best to try to help them understand where we're coming from. At the same time, you know,
I mean, we do our best to maintain professionalism, just because we're doing it for the dogs. We want them to, when they're done with these dogs, or, you know, no longer breeding, or if the dog has health issues, that's a dog that we can provide care to, and we can give that dog a loving home. And so we want them to continue to pass these dogs to us. If you have a dog that has a knee problem, we can get that dog's knee replaced, and he or she will go on to live a long, happy life and do normal Shiba stuff, chase rats in the city, eat squirrels, all that kind of stuff.
I feel like I can speak, though you're in the past and no one can ask you questions in real time right now. I feel like everyone in the chat right now is probably just gushing with appreciation and just respect for all of this hard work you do and how meaningful this is. And
I'm sure at times, heartbreaking and all the other things too, but we're so grateful that you are all here. And just to kind of put it out there, the holidays are coming up. And if you don't really know about how you're spending time with your family, maybe you're not traveling, maybe some of those extra dollars you're not using can go to this really wonderful organization that's doing all of these wonderful things. They deserve so much and more. Their Amazon wish list, which hopefully we can link in the chat along with their website, and follow them on social media. And you can just fantasize about all the dogs that are up there, which is what Momo and I do. So there's so many ways you can support them, and also decide if maybe a Shiba Inu is good for you too. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, there definitely could be your best friend that you didn't know you were missing.
Yep. We are always in need of foster homes, adoptive homes, even other volunteers. If you're not in a situation where you can add another dog to your home or a Shiba, we always need help transporting Shibas, depending on where they're coming from. Like if they're going from Omaha to Ohio, sometimes we'll line up a caravan, and so we always need drivers, things like that. Of course, financial support is always appreciated, but we also need the people support. We are a nonprofit organization. All of us are volunteers, so we do what we can with the time we have. So anyone that wants to help out just to volunteer their time would be much appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. We're definitely always looking for help in all of those ways. And, we're open to other unique ideas. If you have a background in setting up databases and Salesforce or whatever it is, and you want to help out a nonprofit, we are very disorganized. And again, we are all volunteer. And so, some things end up falling through the cracks and taking a while, and we have the best of intentions and never quite gets done. So if you have a skill that you think might be able to help us out, we'd love to talk to you.
That's a wonderful, wonderful idea. And I think, that's just the kind of community that we're so glad that you're a part of here. That's amazing, because I feel like some of us don't have a lot to give except for our own skills and time. And that's, especially during this time, we could do it remotely even. So that's wonderful.
Yep. And then as the holidays come up and approach, this is typically where we see an increase in our need for foster homes. The holidays are times when we feel like people tend to surrender to their dogs a little bit more, or dogs that were bred as Christmas presents may not get purchased from a breeder. So then usually like around the holidays, the first part of the year is when we're busting at the seams. So if you're thinking about fostering and you'd like someone to snuggle up with you for the winter, reach out to us.
They're very warm dogs. They love the winter.
It's true. Momo tries to climb inside me at night if it's cold. So, and you never know. We might be, really thinking we need another hangout buddy. So we'll
reach out. Whitney at ShibaRescue.org.
Yeah. Yes, thank you both so much. And in the spirit of these foxes who are kind of familiars, we're so glad to have this other component to companions that Derek and I both live with every day and love so much. So we're so grateful for all that you do. And I am sure this won't be the end of our conversations. And for everyone out there, you definitely know how to connect with this group now. So please don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we are back, and I think you might have noticed some things have changed in the background. But we have So just like a little something to kind of wrap the show up and chat a little bit more as far as Kitsune are concerned. It just so happens that a game not too long ago by the name of Ghost of Tsushima released and also has some Kitsune elements in it. And so we thought it would be a really great way to kind of roll off the show before we send you to Sentimental Tokyo for your City Pop Hour, as we like to end our evenings. For those of you who are new to the channel, once again, I want to thank you for all of the follows and you participating in the conversation with us. If you haven't seen our schedule, feel free to take a look at it at tokyohouseparty.com, and you'll learn that there, usually after the end of all of our conversations, we like to send our chat by way of Twitch's raid feature into another one of our friends of the show called Sentimental Tokyo, where their channel is dedicated to just 24-hour city pop music. However, on these evenings, they will do a live DJ set if you want to have a cool way to go out in the night. But until then...
Also, with that too, it's nice is if you watch Sentimental Tokyo, which is hosted by DJ Van Poggum, who, if you know city pop stuff, you probably have heard his name before. He's just so wonderful. But he, as he DJs live, he'll show you the records he's playing, so you can see them and you can ask questions, kind of, sorta. And it has its own community. So if you haven't popped in for his City Pop Hour before, this is like the best time. And also, to wrap up our night one more time, is just the biggest thank you to everybody who joined us today, from Matt Meyer and the Onigiri Shuttle Kororin and the Midwest Shiba Inu Rescue. But also, just to reiterate one more time, we have so much stuff coming up in December for you guys. Like, December's action-packed. Derek and I already realized that we don't have a Saturday for the rest of the year.
So many things.
Yeah. So gladly. But so yeah, we have on December 5th the Ikigai Indoors event, which will be from 1 to 4. So it's a little bit different from our normal time. And then on the 19th, we'll have our next Tokyo House Party, which will be all about traditions in Japan around the holidays. It won't be Christmas. And we also have, we're co-curating a show at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago with Tsukasa Taiko and Asian Arts Improv Midwest. And we'll be streaming that live from the MCA along with them. So that's going to be really cool. All this stuff is going to be awesome. You won't want to miss it. So we have a lot of stuff coming up in December before we pivot to more coolness.
So what I'm working on right now is, for those of you who may or may not have seen Ghost of Tsushima, but haven't had the chance to play it yet, there are fox dens located all around this game, and for each fox den that you discover, there will be a fox there that will lead you to an Inari shrine, which you are able to pray to, and gain. Well, you're rewarded for doing it by gaining skill points and the like. And so what I'm doing now, I'm visiting with my map too, because it's almost always guaranteed when traveling around that you're going to bump into one of these fox dens. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of keep this swift and avoid confrontation, which may or may not be guaranteed. However, assuming, not knowing what's to come, I did want to also take this as an opportunity to mention some other games that are out there. If you're looking to find other media and content that are featuring Kitsune or foxes, and Xmas special with KFC, says Sci-Fi Barbie.
We actually are working on that. We did have another cool restaurant locally lined up to be on that show called Gaijin. They make all kinds of amazing things if you haven't been there before, but they're temporarily closed because of COVID. So stay tuned, and also still patron them, because when they do reopen, as they will, you won't want to miss out.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think I'm going to use my horse, because it's going to be very loud and out there. Sorry, Kaze.
Loud and out there, I want it.
my horse is like, get on, come on. Okay, so we might have a fox den up here. I'm going to dodge that, because that might mean confrontation. Anyways, another game that's out there, and another one of my favorites that definitely include Kitsune, if you're familiar with the series, the Persona series from Atlas, Persona 4, which is available on PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, 4. You are one of the key characters is a character by the name of Fox, who you meet at a shrine in one of the towns in Persona, and then you build a relationship with this character. And so that's definitely one space that you can find a Kitsune and have a really cool kind of like RPG dialogue experience with them.
That one was really cool. Derek actually showed me a video of that. We were thinking about how to wrap it in, and I loved it. It was like, and you also go through all of the motions you would need to go through if you went to go visit a Kitsune in Japan. So you learn a little bit about how to visit a Shinto shrine too, which is cool.
Yeah, the only struggle, all these are complete. See, there was a day that prior to this stream, there was a day that I said, I'm going to find as many of these Kitsune fox shrines as I can. But yeah, the only reason Persona didn't necessarily fit for the stream was because it's an incredibly long game, and getting to that Kitsune dialogue would probably be a minute. Another game, I know we had mentioned this, or another game in sort of creative IP overall that we talked about in channel was, of course, Pokemon, which has characters like Vulpix and Ninetales, which is absolutely just harking back to the entire lore of Kitsune and talking about the growth of Kitsune, which is why Vulpix changes colors and goes from that very fox bronze color to the creamy white Ninetales that some of you might be familiar with as well. We're gonna find this fox den though. I'm gonna try going this way, see if that coverage will.
And just FYI, I did want to show you all. I have a shirt with foxes on it today that I wore, just special for this. But it just gets some credit at the very end. It has little foxes all over it.
Yeah, I caught that.
All night.
I was wondering when you were gonna bring it up.
Oh, you can see it?
Yeah, I saw it earlier. I was like, the foxes were a cool touch. I was not as equipped.
Oh, I love themes. I had the Shiba Inu shirt at the Shiba Inu people. I wasn't gonna break it now, but this shirt is like a summer shirt and I'm cold, so.
I'm sensing a trend here, and that means that I think we have to definitely send each other a memo for what shirts we should possibly acquire for the upcoming episodes, because I will not find myself unprepared again after seeing the Shiba Inu shirt and now the fox shirt.
That's gonna be tough. This next episode's gonna be about lots of traditions in Japan. There will be a Christmas cake, courtesy of Hadley from Hadley Go Lucky, who I'm sure you've heard us share before. But other than that, it'll be a lot of kind of like more New Year traditions and more religious traditions, because Christmas isn't really a thing in Japan outside of for couples, which doesn't make it not important. But we'll just talk about other things, such as I feel like the theme could be Fruits Basket totally, but
yeah, that would be great.
I think Funimation owns all of those rights, so we'll have to see what we can do about that.
Trying to head away from trouble.
Does anyone out there play this game along with Derek? I played a little bit too. It's so beautiful.
Oh my gosh, there's so many scenic elements to this game that it's hard not to just sit and hang out in it all day. And speaking of games, so in Kitsune for that matter, no, that is an enemy. I don't want that. I know from time to time we have mentioned a project that I've been working on by the name of Onsen Master, and although I can't feature some of the details of it at this time, one of the most recent characters that we've been working on putting into the game is a Kitsune as well. And so hopefully soon you can look forward to... Oh, is that water too deep? You can look forward to a Kitsune yokai in the game and see how that pans out for the story.
I feel like, Derek, you should totally let everyone know where else to find you on this world of Twitch, where they can hang out with you and do this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, if you do like hanging out and watching, or you're making use of Twitch for games and watching streams, I do go live under Waking Oni, waking like waking up in the morning, And there, I not only share a little bit of game dev, but I also play a lot of retro games. But I have a very particular obsession with seeking out samurai and ninja games because I love the stealthy experience that ninja games like to offer. For anyone that tries to ask what my favorite ninja game is, it's definitely Tenchu Wrath of Heaven, because it is like, I could go on for days with how detailed this one PlayStation 2 what this one PlayStation 2 game is in representing ninjas and ninja tools appropriately. It's very, very interesting.
Well, I put, if you notice me on my phone, that was me typing in the chat that this is where you can find Derek at Waking Oni. So, Waking Oni is in the chat if you want to find Derek's channel. And I know he streams so often, so definitely play games with him and ask him more personal questions about the work he does during his normal life.
Dodge that trouble over there. Yeah, every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Usually like an hour of game dev and then some games. Most recently, we were playing. Which I wish I'm desperately trying to find a way to include it into the show, but we were most recently playing Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which is a game specifically about and growing of rice. And so that's trouble. I love this game to pieces, and I love how granular, or somebody made this pun, but granular.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a pun.
Yeah, I didn't. It's not me. Credits go to a friend of the channel. But it really observes the growing of rice to fine detail, and I love it. It's so pleasant. It's so fun. Let's find it. I know we're close. We have got to be close to a.
We have like 1 minute left of the show tonight, friends. While Derek is earnestly trying to find us a fox, I just want to reiterate, thank you so much to all the new followers today and all the new people in chat. We will be seeing so much more of you come December on the regular. So hopefully you can come to all the things. And we know that quarantine has become a little more serious and things are becoming a little more heated up, so we are here for it, at home with you. So don't fret, we will keep bringing more things, and the events I mentioned coming up will be really cool. And some of these things, like the performance at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago, would be something it'd be difficult to do even if we weren't in quarantine. So now we can share it with everyone, and it's going to be really cool. And the same thing with the Ikigai indoors. You'll learn from all different artists within Japan that practice Japanese arts and culture, and learn how to join them at home. If you want to learn how to do these things while you're at home and want to learn a new skill, find some new cool stuff, they will share those things with you too. So just so many things on the horizon. And the next Tokyo House Party will be really fun with truly my all-time favorite place in Chicago is joining us. So
yes.
I hope that my opinion means something at all anymore, but if it does, you won't want to miss it.
Should be a shrine over here.
Derek.
I've decided I was just gonna fast travel to a shrine, and because that would be much quicker to show, because these shrines are very cute, but the only trouble is they're nestled in things, which normally if you come by a fox, the fox will guide you there, which is always really fun. Sort of chase and follow. Yeah, following the fox to the shrine. I think it's over here. If we don't come across one, I can say that you are guaranteed to bump into some during your own playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima, and then some other games that I would mention featuring Kitsune and Kitsune adjacent friends. A very important one would be Okami, which is available on Nintendo Switch. Okami is a very pleasant game, and the entire playthrough of it kind of looks like an ukiyo-e painting, or a floating world painting if you've seen some of Japan's famous woodblock prints.
And it's all about Amaterasu, who we mentioned already in the chat.
It is. It's so cool. Anyways, there is a boss character by the name of Ninetales, and there's kind of a fun redundancy of Kitsune and Kitsune masks because this boss is, although they are a Kitsune, they are wearing a Kitsune mask during the confrontation, and it's really cool.
And very meta.
Very, very meta.
I love it. Derek, we are at 2 minutes after 9.
That is all right.
Okay, all right, cool. And again,
Oh, there it is. The shrine's right there. I just got to get on the other side.
I wasn't believing, and that's my bad.
It's cool. We rolled the dice and we played with the uncertainty of what was going to show up in Ghost of Tsushima. I imagine it if we were trying to once again organically look for a fox, it would probably be another moment before actually discovering. But at least I can show you.
Still pacing, eating things off a carpet that aren't real. I don't even know what she's doing.
Sounds like Luna.
Yeah, and you all should know that Derek's been keeping a real secret from you, which is that he has a new Shiba puppy. He's not sharing it.
It is true. Yes, we have Luna, but here we are. Those are all the details I'll say. We have Luna, and I have 2 Shibas. But we made it to our Inari shrine, and I think that's a great way to go out on the show. Again, if any of you are I highly encourage sticking around for the raid that we'll send off to Sentiment to Tokyo. But once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking around for another episode of Tokyo House Party, and we hope to see you again for another.
On December 5th for the Ikigai event. That's the next one.
Yes, absolutely.
Follow us
that.
Japanese Arts Foundation on Instagram and on Facebook. And of course, if you all didn't receive my 2 p.m. email today, I slave over those. If you guys don't already subscribe to that, now is the time. You can do that on our website. So I send out emails the day of any show at 2 o'clock with all of the details, all the links so you can meet these people before we start. So if you haven't done that already, it's the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody is going to be really pleasantly surprised by what Van has in store for us. I'm not going to say anything, but they're looking pretty cool. I am both typing Van's channel down below for anybody that's interested in following, so that you can save it for the future, and then as well as my channel in case you are wanting to check out more games. But that's it for now. We will see you next time.